Debate after show. Let's get it. in a world. All right, what's up, fam? First real live debate after show I think I've ever done. But shout out to Alan and Toby for doing the debate. And I know the pain. I know how it goes. So I wanted to have their back. So we got a crew over in Ethercause Discord, and we're going to chat about what happened in the debate. If you want to donate during the stream, link is pinned in the chat. It's also the second link in the description. It's ko-fi.com/Witsit, ko-fi.com/Witsit. And yeah, we're just going to discuss it. If you don't know, there was a debate from between PhD Tony and Darryl, and then Toby and Alan on modern day debate. And it was interesting, I guess, to say the least. But yeah, so I'm going to pop over to Discord, and then we'll just start chatting and see how it goes. All right. May interrupt a convo here.
Started being a little twerp about it.
All right, we're live. What's up, fam?
What's good, dog?
Yo.
So how was your experience, Alan and Toby, living here?
If I had to rate it on a scale from 1 to full DS, I'd say it was full DS.
Nice.
For anyone who's not familiar with what DS is, if you go to adl.place, you can find it on Shane's links. It'll be in the definition section.
It rhymes with og it.
Yeah, man, I was tired for you guys, and then what happened was every time, because like, bro, you two came in there so chill, you know, and they were just interrupting you. They take your kindness for weakness, and so I'm like, nah, not today. So I started sending super chats, and I spent a decent amount of money there trying to help you guys out. And then halfway through the super chats, Alan was like, bro, I'm over this. I'm like, dang, he's gonna be so mad at me because I sent so many super chats.
Dude, I did think that was so hilarious. Like, Alan was just like looking like so ready to be done. And it's just super chat for Witsit. Super chat for Witsit.
He's like,
Super
can I get
chat
out of here?
So funny, bro.
Oh, that's hilarious. But they were good super chats.
Yeah, because they can't interrupt the super chats, right? So.
Yeah, my particular one that I like the most, right, that like that I thought was really funny, was when you asked about the Michelson-Morley fringe displacement derivation, like what the significance of that is, like, you know, the whole point of the paper, and he was like, I don't know, like, who cares? I don't need to know that. It's like, bro, but you just did the same thing to me on a less important part of the paper, and acted like that was the
less
whole,
important part of the paper,
and acted like that was the whole dude, I got him, like, nah, man. But yeah, thank you for that particular super chat. All the other ones though, you can charge them back.
Yo. Let's highlight what you're talking about. So, this guy, he tried to act like he was going to expose you guys for not understanding MMX of the paper, and he goes in there and he finds like this fourth order measurement, or more so like, you know, computation towards the end of the paper, and he's like, do you know how to do this? Oh, you don't even know how to do it. Like, he somehow debunked you, right? But then when the very basic equation that even shows how they derived the fringe shift in the first place, like the most primary calculation of the entire MMX, like how they got their prediction in the first place, he didn't even understand it, which is the most important part of your entire argument. And they wouldn't let you get to that. He had some gotcha plans to show some random part of the paper where you didn't know how to do the math at the top of your head, and it proves you wrong.
Dude, I didn't read the Lorentz notes about using Jupiter's whatever. Like, oh my god, dude! So it's relativity's true. They measure velocity.
Yeah.
Like, what the heck are you talking about, dog?
He pointed out a 12th order derivative thing. He's like, oh, you didn't know that it went this far? We can continue extrapolating endlessly off the claim that we originally made? You didn't know how far we could extrapolate it? Well, then you don't know anything about listen to anything you've ever said.
Did you know that they're also using the combined velocity of the solar system, and they still didn't even measure that?
How about this? Okay. How about this? Darryl did not one time after the very beginning. He did not answer one question or make one point.
Wait, pause. Let me go ahead and say this. Let me go ahead and say this. We can't talk at the same time. So, like, Brian was talking, please, because audio chaos. We're live on YouTube. We can't all talk at the same time. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, let me wrap it up, man. If you watch it back, it literally every single time he spoke, he just gaslighted and said that they didn't understand. Like, that was his whole goal in going there is finding one thing they hadn't read into, and then saying they didn't understand nothing for the whole rest of the debate. He's every single time he spoke. He said that they didn't understand.
Yeah. And so, like, obviously, I pointed out that he kept using the credentials fallacy, which is dismissing someone's argument based solely on the fact that they don't have the proper credentials in that specific field, as if that their argument's automatically invalid. It's a fallacy, right? Because imagine being a genius, but being an expert in electricity, but then going to talk about magnetism. Like, oh, you can't talk about things. You can be an absolute genius, but you can only talk about what you have credentials in. He proceeded to talk about all kinds of things outside of seismology, right? So it's just a ridiculous thing. And he thought that it was basically an appeal to authority, which is saying if you don't, since I have the proper credentials, my argument's right. But no, it is dismissing someone else's argument because they don't have the proper credentials. And they did that to you guys the whole time. And and then claiming that you're denying science was like the primary way that they shut you down, got you guys down. I'm curious. Obviously, this is a layup and an obvious answer, but I'm curious, Alan, Toby, both, either. Like, what is your response to basically their primary argument throughout the entire debate, which is that you don't have the right to have an opinion, you don't have the credentials, and you must be denying the science?
Toby, you want to take that one?
I mean, it's like, what am I going to say other than too bad?
Right. Like, it's the stupidest argument. It's the stupidest argument.
Sorry, man. Like, what I'm reading is still what I'm reading. It's not going to change any of it.
What's really painful about listening to that line of gaslighting to, like, prove the point or whatever is that it takes so long to get through, man. Like, there's so much buildup to tell everyone how stupid we are and how we don't understand it, can't possibly get it. It's like, bro, can't there just be like an acronym you guys can come up with so we can knock this out quick? Like, I'm not trying to spend all night being gaslit. Just hit me with an XYZ acronym and you could and wrap that shit up quick, man.
Yeah, totally. And that's also an appeal to emotion. So what they're doing there is they're like trying to appeal to the emotional state of the audience and gaslight you and dismiss you based on credentials or lack thereof, right? But I will say, it is it's very like useful. It's very impactful, basically, right? Like, it can be very effective, right? Because people think with their emotions. And so that's why when Alan's saying it's so long, that's why it's so long. Because they're building up the emotional response all the time. Basically virtue signaling. Well, people devoted their whole life to science. And, it's like just, he's basically crying on the mic. It's very like useful. It's very impactful, basically, right? Like, it can be very effective. Right, because you're echoing. I'm gonna. I can't mute him. Someone has to help me. I can mute him on my end. That helps the stream, but I don't have.
Tony actually, I got you. We're good. Tony actually took it one step farther. He borrowed the credentials of like his GPS buddies and used their credentials to argue.
That's totally true.
Beyond whack.
I was thinking about borrowing some credentials too, but then I was like, I'm not gay. So
that's how credentials work, right? One of us can go through it, and then I can just share it with all you, and then we can all be accredited.
Oh, I'm so glad you didn't say that you weren't gay there, dude, because they're like totally into the whole.
Yo, I'm gonna be honest, bro. Like, you guys were way out of their league, right? And so I messaged James during the debate. Because for those that don't know, James is my homie, man. Like, I hung out with him in person. I went to that in-person debate. Debate-a-thon or whatever it was called, Debate-a-con, and he's cool, man, right? Like, James is actually cool. He's just super chill, and he just he's like almost too chill, maybe some could say. And so I was talking to him, and I'm like, bro, like, for one, Tony's just out of control, right? And like, you can see why if the moderator doesn't rein someone like that in, then it's like it's gonna be super frustrating to people, because Alan and Toby, anyone that has like intelligence or discernment, well, see, dude, they were coming with like a full loaded bazooka, and these people had like a slingshot. So they were like crawling on the ground, throwing rocks from the sidelines, and they were they were like trying to trip them up where you couldn't even get your point out. It was super frustrating to watch it, to be honest.
No, not really, man, because Toby and Alan were so composed. They didn't entertain it, except Toby did a couple times when it was overdue. You could say overdue. And so it was so on the nose when he said, man, you're going to interrupt me to gaslight me. Like, they kept their composure and didn't entertain all that bullshit. I thought they did freaking phenomenal, man.
Yeah. Let's keep profanity on the minimum. Go ahead, brother.
I wanted to make sure that they got a good, their good saying on the fallacies. So I like specifically super chatted you guys. I don't know if you remember that, Toby and
Alan. Was you. That was a really.
I've never once made a single comment in YouTube. I've never once made a single super chat. This is the first time I ever even fucking logged in, because I was like, I saw what was going on. I was like, dude, there's no way that they're not going to be able to have the chance to call him out. So I specifically was like, bro, like, how do you, like, how can you guys address the appeal to authority, appeal to credentials, and appeal to majority fallacies? And how do those tie into the acceptance of the current globe religion? You know, and I like, because it's like,
great.
yeah, I did a lot of those and I realized, like, if you just address it, because like a lot of people will super chat to the other guys, right? But then they'll just have a chance to like just kind of like rattle off a bunch of fallacious bullshit, and then Ryan's gonna be like, "Oh, the 15 to 30 seconds is up. We got to move on."
Frustrating.
Yeah. So I just every super chat I did, I added Toby /on at the beginning of it, and then fucking the one that I really wanted to get in there was I asked Darryl if laser interferometry were to show a correlation between the motions of the celestial bodies and friendship. Would that falsify relativity? And then the second part of my question was, Alan/Toby, please address Darryl's response. I specifically put that in there because I didn't want Darryl just to be able to say whatever he was going to say and get away.
I saw that.
Yeah,
I saw that.
Yeah, and then Ryan didn't even read it, and like, and bro, and like Toby, you're like itching to get you're like Dayton Miller.
I know, it's so bad.
And then he totally shysted you guys on that, man.
Yo, by the way,
you are the best YouTube debate viewer ever.
Yo, by the way,
like right on the right wavelength, dude. Those are like such perfect, like, and then he still didn't do it though.
Yeah, real fast. I'm not trying to be a buzzkill. Can everyone try to keep the profanity to a minimum? Like an occasional slip up is cool, but I'm trying to get my monetization back. I'm not a sellout, but I mean, like, we can't cuss too much. I have children watching this. I get videos with children a lot, so I'm sorry.
Fair enough.
I hate to be the buzzkill, but like, especially the F-bombs, if that's possible. I'm sorry. Yes, call me lame. I'm the lame one. I'm the one. Whatever.
Marcia,
I am with you, Witsit. I am with you on that.
Marcia.
I literally get videos of children dancing to like my YouTube intro of the astronauts and stuff, and it's like, I'm proud of the fact that I've made a YouTube that children can watch. So let's keep it that way, if you don't mind. I'm gonna say real fast. I do want, while we have like a pretty decent viewer count, I want Alan and Toby to plug all their stuff real quick. Plug your stuff if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ether Cosmology. Every Tuesday and Thursday at 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. respectively. We do presentations on Tuesday. We read papers on Thursday. You can find the streams on Ether Cosmology on YouTube or on my channel, Space _audits.
Yeah, and let me give them their flowers, bro. Like they have days in the week where they go through actual papers and they sit there and they read through them. They have discussions. They highlight the important parts. They make sure everyone understands it. So you can understand their frustration when they go to the debate, and then these people are like, "You don't understand the paper." It's like, "Oh, on the contrary, you've never read it. You don't understand it. You have no idea. You have a bias that they must be wrong." And then they are over here live streaming and recording, documenting like 4 or 5 hour sessions that they read the papers and go in detail about them. And so if you're interested in learning more of the cutting edge stuff that's just a lethal blow to like what they claim to be true about the Earth, then definitely check them out. And that's Space Audits, who he took my name, so I had to go with Audit NASA because he took my name. And so check him out on YouTube. And then Toby, check Toby out. Toby, that's Ether Cosmology on YouTube, on every other platform, also on Discord, although I don't think that lame people are invited particularly. And then what's your personal?
You can go to ethercosmology.com. We just started like a forum there, and that kind of links in with the Discord channel too. And all our links are there to YouTube and everything. And then also check out all Alan's links are over at spaceaudits.net. So if it's easier for you to remember the web address.
Spaceaudits.net.
Space Audits.
Yeah, spaceaudits.net. And then we have ethercosmology.com. I went there and it's super lit. So definitely go. I'll put the links in the description. All right, now we got that out of the way. I want to say one thing to you guys. I'm not trying to, I guess technically this is like a weird comment about me, but do you remember when he kept calling what you said word salad? You remember that? He just
he called the colloquial meaning.
Yeah.
Oh, dude. So I remember when somebody super chatted him and said, "Can you define word salad?"
That was me. Yeah,
I think it was you. Yeah, it was you. And just the other day we were talking about how they have a colloquial definition, bro.
Yeah.
And your boy actually took the time to get the colloquial definition out. I thought that was so funny. Dude. I bursted out laughing. As soon as he said colloquial, I was like, "Yes, dude, that's awesome."
I was trying to give them a heads up. They've been accused me of using word salad for years, and I know that if someone like Toby and Alan go on Discord, like they're gonna say you're using word salad because if you're intelligent and you make a scientifically accurate and specific comments, they're like word salad, right? So anyway, now that I've started pressing them about the definition and other people have followed suit because they're using that wrong, now they've changed the whole script to, oh, it's just a colloquial use of it. So I gave them a heads up, and then literally PhD Tony comes out of nowhere talking about it's just a colloquial use of it. But anyway, they did that to you guys like 3 or 4 times. I want to say, dude, I encourage you guys to keep doing it. Because I can't be the only one going on there and doing it. And you guys are right up there with me, if not better, right? And we need more people up there that are really able to like hold their feet to the fire. And if these people are just reverting to like word salad, then like you just destroyed them. That's what that means.
100%.
There we go. So like seriously, I encourage you guys to keep doing it, even though I know you weren't particularly satisfied with the moderation. I know it's exhausting. I know it feels like it takes a long time. But all jokes aside, I really want you guys to keep doing it. Like, I don't know if anyone else in the room wants to kind of like input what they think, but we don't have many people that are up there ready to just like, pop jabs at that high of a level. And I don't want you guys to be discouraged with your first
Bro,
experience.
I'm not discouraged, bro. I'm ready, bro. Listen, dude, Clearview told me not to go to MDD. And I'm not going to do it, bro, because I respect Clearview. But yeah, man, I feel like we are better than that. We need to make our own thing, bro. Look at how Ryan modded.
No, that's not the comment. What I'm gonna do is go on then next week, right, or whenever. We're gonna have a one-on-one.
Shane's gonna go on there. So we have Shane, we have Alan, and I'll be honest, bro. I'm like that guy that's like, I'm not gonna tell you to go on there if you're not good at it, because we don't need people that's not ready. It's unfair that you need to be so much more prepared, but you do. So I really encourage people to support Toby, Alan, Shane, and I'll name the names I think are ready when I think they're ready. And I think that they're ready. And not that I have like some authority to say who, I'm just saying that you have my stamp of approval for whatever that's worth. And people should rally around and support them, whether that be subbing, sending money to their, say, Cash Apps or whatever. Encourage them to actually continue. And I encourage you guys to throw your Cash App or wherever people can support you on these sites that we're plugging, just so you feel like there is some people behind you. Yeah, you need, in my opinion. One thing I'm going to bring up, so I'm sharing my screen with you guys, and it's been on Discord for a minute, and I'm going to show the YouTube real quick. Okay, and so one thing that they call word salad, just to use this as an example of how ridiculous of a thing it is to say. Centrifugal divergence, that's not a real term, only Ken Willer uses it. And then this is Cambridge University, from divergence to convergence, centrifugal and centripetal forces in history. Okay, well, divergence.
In the title of the paper.
Yeah, literally. Divergence is in reference to
salad.
It's reference to centrifugal, and then convergence.
The word salad paper. Someone should tell them.
Yeah, it's like, and then they were saying, someone commented in the chat, they were like, it doesn't say centrifugal divergence. Well, I'm like, dang, you don't understand the title even, bro. Like, it's so bad. Divergence and convergence, centrifugal and centripetal. So divergence refers to what? Centrifugal, right?
The comment exposes so much.
Yo.
It's like deep layer meta level exposure there.
Crazy, bro. Because like obviously those words are directly tied together based on the phenomena. But anyway, just to say that like don't fall for that ridiculous like coping tactic that they use.
I mean, like you guys remember the point of this was to push the ether in front of the mainstream, because nobody on Discord or any would interact with us about any of these topics, right? It was feared. It's so well researched and grounded that they wouldn't engage with it. That was the whole purpose, to bring it on modern day debate. So of course they took the approach as to try and discredit these two in any human way possible.
Right, and if anybody new happens to be listening, if you know Toby and Alan, or if you watch them, they are super modest. And if they don't understand something while they're doing their hours of research, they stop in their tracks and go look it up and have no trouble admitting that they don't understand anything. So it's just crazy. Anybody
bro, on that note, actually.
Okay, go ahead, Toby.
It was funny, like the first order, second order thing when we got into that was really funny to me, because me and Alan ended up like diverging on it because Alan stuck to the first order. And like, it's hilarious because like literally me and Alan have had in-depth discussions about that. And we actually
the last time that him and I argued, like we kind of had an argument about it almost. It wasn't an argument, it was more of like I don't know, we were just going back and forth about it. And I was saying that it was first order, and Alan was saying that it was second order. But like tonight, I was defending it as first order, and Alan was defending, or I was defending it as second order. And Alan was defending it as first order because I was just trying to. I was like forced to actually explain Wang's position and what was going on in that paper. But like our understanding of it being a first order measurement, you know, like that's just based on our opinion essentially of, you know, the way that the apparatus works and the way that you have an IV and a DV and. Like it is like I get what they're saying, that you're actually doing a calculation to derive a one-way speed of light from two different directions, and that is like an argument to be made that it's a first or it's a second order measurement. But
wait. We need to really break this.
Understand that.
We need to break this down. Yeah. Okay. Look, this is what happened in that debate. Is Toby and Alan were so far beyond them that they and so honest that you could misinterpret it as they were correcting Toby and Alan. That's not what happened at all. They understand the actual reason that they're first, second, third, or fourth order magnitude, measurements, but they don't. That's a fact. They don't know that, it's because you have a two-way speed of light. They don't know any of that. Right. And it's important to show, the reason that they have a different interpretation. See, Alan and Toby were being so humble, and I don't suggest you change that, but they were saying like, Alan's like, that's my opinion. If you think I'm wrong, whatever. But like, that's my opinion. It's actually first order. Well, Alan has a very intellectually valid reason to say that, and he could stand toe to toe with anybody that actually knows what they're talking about, and they would concede validity into Alan's point. And I offer $1,000 bet for that. $1,000 bet, get a PhD in physics to come sit down and hear his first order measurement argument, and they're going to concede, I do see what you're saying, that could be valid. I just want to make that point very clear to people, right? That the reason is because they have relativistic, heliocentric dogma and propaganda that they're running everything through. Those assumptions require you kind of deviate everything away from first order all the way back to maybe even fourth order measurements, which for those that don't know, it's just how removed it is from the initial measurement. It's each step that you remove from the original measurement, right? You have a different order of computation. That's all that means.
If I may have
first order refers to direct measurements, but dude, PhD Tony was acting within 200 kilometers or like 140 something miles. That's as far as it works. The difference between flat and globe over that.
Right, what were you saying, Austin? About the...
Yeah. So to make the point, so really, when Alan was being super humble, I'm I could be wrong about that. Alan was just he doesn't have time for the BS. Bro, that's what it is.
So that's really cool that you noticed what was going on there, because I'm super comfortable going toe to toe on that being a first order measurement based off of Wang's work, because like I was trying to say during the thing, if you unwind that back and forth, right? It's just a fiber optic cable. It's exactly what Wang did. That's what the linearization means. So because he generalized the effect, right? What does that mean? Did he just change the algebra? No, the effect has been generalized, my dudes. Therefore, that's why I'm saying
perfectly said. Yeah.
I'd recommend anybody to go back and take a look what Alan said at the beginning of this. Alan, you mentioned in there, you said they had asked you, do you say that this is a first order? And you specifically said, no, what they state is that it's a second order. And I believe the opposite, and I can explain that. And then they just went and wound it on you, right?
Yeah, let's let Alan unpack it, guys.
Sure.
Oh, dude, I forgot about that. I did. So because I knew what he was gonna get at with the phase conjugate paper, because we read papers around here. So I already knew what was coming down the pike, and I'm like, I don't care, bro. That's first order. You want to find out? So that's where it was at,
Yeah.
That's the explanation.
It's important because I will say, when you appeal to emotion, you muddy the water so much that you have to understand that they can kind of pretend to know just a little bit, and then you guys know a lot. The audience knows nothing. And so when you try to bridge that gap, that illusion that they know, the audience doesn't know. The audience doesn't know that Alan is so confident that he would just absolutely brawn tomahawk on these people from the free throw line. They have no idea, right? Now I know that Alan would absolutely dunk on them, and Alan's just not going to play this game where every time he gets on the verge of his conclusion, you get to interrupt him by screaming like a pestilent child, like Tony was doing. But I know, right? And if you actually read the papers, you know, and if you actually know the history of everything that led up to it, you know. And so I think the people that are going to be pursuing truth, right? They're going to watch that. They're not going to leave knowing what's going on. They're not. But they're going to be curious. A truth seeker is going to watch that and be like, wait, what? They won't let them explain it. They keep gaslighting them. That's all that they have. Like, I want to know what's going on. They're going to come to places like here, and they're going to come to places like your links, and that's why I'm telling you to plug it and encouraging you to keep going on the show. I just want to tell you guys that. I hope you know what I'm saying.
I appreciate the encouragement, man, because that felt horrible. Like, I feel like I want to take a shower afterwards, dude. Yeah. It was so gross after like the first couple gaslights. Like, I only have one option, and it's just to mentally check out, because otherwise I'm gonna start saying, like, I'm gonna start.
Right. You're gonna get mad. Yeah. Doesn't it feel like you've been violated almost? Like it feels like you're being violated. It feels like
it's like you're getting like you're just getting punked out in front of everybody.
Like R-worded, bro. It feels like you're literally being violated. Like, because you can't defend yourself and they're misrepresenting you to the world, and eventually you're just like, either I'm gonna scream and cuss you out, or I'm just gonna like let it go. That's Alan's approach. I could take notes from Alan, frankly, because I'm like, no, I'm gonna, I'll get in the mud.
Dude, it's so hard to resist it, because it's like, all right, dude, you want to play interrupt and talk loud, bro? I got you. I grew up on that.
Watch out, buddy.
School, yeah, I went to middle school, dude. Let's do it.
I went to middle school.
Let's start raising our voices while we're talking, bro.
Yo, that dude was just screaming in my headphones, bro. I saw Alan just like glitch out a couple of times. He was just screaming.
There is an actual scientific like reason for that too. Like, a lot of you guys have probably heard Witsit say like, bro, you should look up the studies on dishonesty and its effect on, you know, the health of cells. Like, there's this prove it. Well, that works. That works as well if you're exposed to other people's dishonesty. I mean, like, you could literally just Google this shit. There's been like multiple studies done. There's been multiple studies done where they've exposed people to other people lying and shown that it has a measurable negative health effect. So Alan's sitting there, and these two guys are just rattling off fallacious BS. You know what I mean? And him as an honest dude, like, that's gonna have a measurable negative effect on him. You know what I mean? So
exactly,
you're suffering health consequences,
bro, and like
being exposed to it. You know?
And that's what I'm trying to say. Like now you guys kind of know what happens when you go in there, right? It's like you just want people to know the truth. And you've done tons of research, and you want to be able to break it down and let them see it. And there's this other group that's just like super dishonest and manipulative, trying to shut you down. And it makes you feel gross. And like, I'm just encouraging you guys. I know it sucks. I know it's unfair. I know it's exhausting. I know that it plays a toll on you, like it does. But like, it takes a toll on you. Mm-hmm. Still do it, bro. And you should have people like vocalizing the support.
Sorry to interrupt.
Good.
All that said, it was fun too, and it was fun to trigger Tony with seismology stuff.
That was hilarious.
They sort of embodied that point though, right? When they were like, listen, everyone, you can't read, you don't know how to put words together and interpret things and have an opinion. These two are a shining example of why you're not allowed to read and interpret things. You must trust our scientific interpretation. That's like literally what he was pushing, right? Like, purposely.
Yeah, let me read the super chat real quick. Just Rose, thank you for the $25 tip. Keep the truth going with a heart. Much love. Thank you so much. California Red 117. Yuta man, what's it? Alan and Toby did a great job. Hard to stay composed considering these Globers got nothing but insults and gaslighting. Anything you want to say?
Of which they're experts, right?
Yeah, it's pretty much what we've been talking about. I think they did very good. It took me years to even get to where I'm at, and I still mess up. I think they did incredible for their first MDD. It's like, I think they're trying to get you to react, right? And you guys did very good. Like, Toby was so good about it too, man. Like, Toby was like, can you stop interrupting me? You know, he just like, he was like, well, it's kind of hard for me to talk if you just keep interrupting me. And Alan, like, I could tell Alan was biting his tongue too. So I'm impressed by both of you guys, honestly. Let me read the last one here real quick. Melissa, since you spent, thank you for the $10 tip. Melissa says, since you spent cash on super chats. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you for replacing the super chat funds. We got to be out here on the front lines. I felt like I was like a really proud big brother, bro, and I'm like, dude, not on my watch.
Dude, yeah, much appreciated, except for the time extension that it caused.
Yeah, exactly.
The support was really felt. Like maybe if you could condense it into a singular super chat.
You can't, bro. You can't.
No.
Like, because like what happens is as the debate progresses, it's like you made a point, they interrupted, they lied about it, and then we get down, and then it comes back up, and they lie about it, and it's like, oh, they censored Toby and Alan, wouldn't let them respond. But I'm going to now say the final statement that exposes them. It's very tempting for me to like call them out, but halfway through, I'm like, damn, bro, Toby and Alan are going to be so mad at me because this is dragging the debate out. So I'm sorry, man.
Hey, bro, if I may just make like a 10-second comment. I know how you were like saying like I'm not the arbiter of like who is up to debate or whatever, but like sometimes it's cool to have like a layman like me, like maybe like me and Toby or me and Alan, like I'm calling out the logical fallacies, and then like Alan or because like Alan and Toby were murking it, right? But there needed to be a dude like me to like be calling out their garbage, bro. Or the mod, but there was no mod. So like you need to kind of like self mod a little bit.
I may end up using my platform to try to host. I think Jared and I are going to come together and host like really dope debates, and that may be the next step forward. But also we need a presence on MDD. So let's try to remember some of the points that they made, right? Because obviously we covered the credentials fallacy, and I sent the super chat that said, so credentials fallacy is actually when you dismiss an argument because the person presenting the argument allegedly doesn't have the proper credentials to make the argument, and that's fallacious. Would you like to admit that you're wrong? And then he screamed, no. Okay.
Dude, no. He was like, no.
Yeah. So there are many topics that they were grossly wrong about, and I want people to be able to come here and kind of get some edification, right? And so one of the things that they were grossly wrong about was the linear motion detected with interferometry, right? Like they ducked it, they avoided it. It was just so gross how they reacted to all that. And let's be real, it's because they don't know about it. And I think that all of us would agree we would have respected them just saying, I'm not familiar with that, as opposed to acting like you guys didn't know what you were talking about. If both of you or either one of you want to kind of cover the importance of the linear motion, the argument you were trying to make that you were kind of being censored from making, and how it really has a domino effect with the other measurements, regarding interferometry, I think it's important for the audience to kind of be able to hear you guys actually say it without being interrupted and fully explain. If you guys want to feed off each other for a bit, and I'm going to step away for just a second, be right back. But I think that's important if you guys have it in you. I know you're tired to like kind of explain it.
Yeah. Do you want to start us off, Toby?
Yeah, I'll actually share. Well, I don't know if it'll show for Witsit's stream if I share my screen.
It won't unless he clicks it, but he's AFK.
Yeah, that's fine.
We can see it.
We don't need it. It's fine. I did show that Venn diagram at some point during the debate, if anyone remembers, and it has motion, curvature, and pressure, and it's like listing a bunch of things. It's definitely not all inclusive, but it's listing just like a bunch of things about this debate. And it turns out that like right in the center of curvature, motion, and pressure, you have the ether wind, and then you have gravity. And it's because the ether wind, if you take into consideration the fact, it feels so good not to be in a debate and being rushing and being interrupted. But the ether wind, if you take into account fluctuations at altitude, the fact that it gets greater at altitude, and then the fact that there's a daily and an annual periodicity. So like as the every single day, the speed of light, there's like a preferred direction of the speed of light that they measure with interferometry, and that preferred directionality gets greater and lower throughout the course of a day, every single day, and that matches the motion of the sky essentially. And then it doesn't just match that, but it also matches the periodicity, the motion of the sun. And so what that means is that they're not measuring anything. It's not purely like an Earth rotation that they're measuring, but what they're actually measuring is something much different than that, pretty simply explained with the idea of a rotating sky in a stationary plane, because you just have a translation of motion down from the sky through the substantive medium of the ether. And so then it's like it takes out everything for multiple reasons, because it's not just motion, right? Because it doesn't add up with their motion. it means that we should have measured, or it's just not the math that they have to do to try to make it make sense. It's really crazy, and it's not simple to explain within an etheric background. The fact that we can't measure any motion.
Yeah, let me pause you real quick. Like I did hear you say, if you do want to share screen, I got you now. I just have to wait. You don't have to, you don't want to, but I got you.
No,
now.
I'm kind of past the point. It's cool.
Fair enough.
Thank you. But yeah, maybe I will just show it real quick.
Yeah, let me stop sharing and then you share. I'll pop it up. Okay, I don't think I'm sharing. Yeah, I am. Okay, I stopped. I do think that people need to see it as well, or at least they can take screenshots and look into it. And this is why I do definitely invite you guys to go to ethercosmology.com. And dude, I can speak for everyone here, dude. Anyone that's truly curious about like learning the minutia and the nuance about this, you're welcome. All right, so you're showing to the audience,
cool.
Brother.
Yeah. So in the center we have the ether wind, and it disproves the motion, as I kind of was trying to was having a hard time explaining, but just essentially because they pick up on what they would have to call the orbital motion, but it doesn't actually equate to be an orbital velocity. And then it gives problems for curvature because it's actually a gradient. It kind of goes with the whole thing of like the parallel voltage gradient. The ether fluctuations would be a parallel going up from the ground, and that would not make sense at all with the motion, right? It's kind of like the confluence of everything gets broken by the ether wind. And then pressure, right? It also totally blows their pressure thing out of the water because there's a substantive medium all going up to the sky, and the sky itself is moving faster at altitude. But yeah, and then gravity happens to be in the center of everything too, right? Because it's what holds everything in with motion. It's what's at the center of the sphere that gives us their magical point-specific gravity. Which, man, I'm so bummed I didn't get to talk about that, but that's the way it goes. And then
you got as much time as you want right now, bro. Like I just blew up your diagram.
Cool. Yeah. So I mean that's with point-specific gravity, I mean, so I wanted to talk about Newton's shell theorem, and that's like, where it was? Oh, this is the wrong. This is when I kept having to chop it down. He tried to give us 6 minutes, and me and Al were like, no, that's not cool. We need longer than that, and then we got 8 minutes.
I like that you guys both got 8 minutes though, because imagine trying to fit it into 6. It's
it was a nightmare. I was trying to, and it was never going to happen.
Someone comes on there and they're like, I'll talk for 6 minutes if that's cool. It's like, no, can I have 11?
Oh, shoot. That's going to... never mind. I don't want to... Whoops.
It's crazy, though, because like I messaged James. I said a few things, right? I said, dude, let me have a debate where does the ether exist? And I said we need to narrow down the conversations to very specific topics. That's what needs to happen, because
that would be a great one.
Yeah.
Does the ether exist or not?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like,
bro, tell him to come get this work, bro. Right? Because like you need, does the ether exist? Still has too many subtopics for a debate, right? So it's like we need to narrow it down. That's our next step.
Yeah.
In my opinion, right? Because you talk about flat Earth, you're like, motion itself has 50 arguments, right? So,
yeah. So Newton's shell theorem, real quick, while I've got this up, the Earth's dense iron core is located at the point of zero gravity. I don't know, like I'm surprised I only heard about this just like a month or so ago, because I feel like it's a pretty big deal. Basically, the point is that the greatest point of gravity is actually supposed to be at the surface of the Earth. That's where you would have the greatest amount of density, essentially. But they have to invoke their iron sphere at the point where there would be literally zero gravity in the center.
That's wild.
Yeah, but they need the iron core because if they don't have the iron core, how do you explain point-specific gravity pulling us all uniformly in towards the center? But yeah.
Cool.
I didn't really get a chance to talk about that. And I didn't get to show my beautiful Apollo 17 pictures.
I know you had a lot with the seismology and stuff. Alan, do you want to give any quick takes on? Let me do that. Any quick takes on linear motion part of it, or do you think that we're good there? But I think it is important. They were running away from that, and it has a domino effect, obviously.
So yeah, the linear motion part, right? The one guy gave the standard reply where it's like, oh, Wang was just suggesting that, if you use it in combination with that, well, yeah. For the sake of the paper and getting it through academia, he absolutely did say it like that. But you know what he also did? He went and patented a linear motion interferometer, right? Because he knew exactly what he was doing when he generalized the Sagnac effect, right? It's not just the math portion of it that was generalized, right? And the implications of that are huge because they say like their entire model, right? Their entire belief system of heliocentrism, right? Which we were going over the measurements of Earth's orbital velocity, right? The model is entirely dependent on the Earth having an orbital component, right? There has to be some velocity measured somewhere. It can't be 8 to 10 kilometers an hour or a second. It has to be 30, right? To complete the geometry of what they've extrapolated with their orbits, 30 kilometers an hour is how fast the Earth has to move through space, right? And when they went to take those measurements in 1887 and subsequent measurements from Miller, for 30 years, et cetera, right? They never got anything close to 30 kilometers a second. Now, it wasn't until they started doing things like changing the position of the sensor, using disproportional arm lengths of the interferometer, where they could start getting higher measurements, right? And those measurements can't be substantiated, right? Because that's not actually how you make the measurements and apply the fringes correctly, right? Because there's this thing called an inertial navigation system, right? So there's a very specific way to interpret the fringes in relation to a first order effect of motion, right? So they know exactly how to derive the fringes. It's down to an insane degree of precision, right? So they should have been able to measure the linear motion of Earth orbiting around the sun, and they didn't get anything close to that with a proper setup, right? That actually would actually give you a proportional reading. Now, when they did a subsequent experiment, right, Michelson, Gale, Pearson, with a larger interferometer in the closed loop setup, they say that is a special, like Toby was saying, that's a special interferometer, guys. This one measures rotation, and it allows for the fringe displacement to be measured. Because we didn't even get to the fringe displacement. Like, oh man, I'm not even gonna rehash that. But
Yeah, I want to go through them and rehash them because that's what's so frustrating. Yeah, I mean we can do it one by one. We can do it one by one. But
all right. Yeah,
just to make sure everyone understands what he's saying, it's like we've shown that you can detect linear motion with the interferometer. Their excuse to get rid of Michelson-Morley not detecting the orbit of the Earth was to change it from the Newtonian orbit where it's moving in a curved path, and Einstein said it's going in a straight path. That means the interferometry should be able to detect the alleged linear motion of the Earth around the sun. Yeah, that's right. That's what I said. The alleged linear motion of Earth around the sun, right? That they claim is there, and it has major implications.
Bro, I got a question though, real quick. What the fuck was he talking about?
Bro, you just popped in with the F-bomb. I need 20 push-ups.
No more cussing, guys.
20 push-ups, but go ahead.
20 push-ups. Okay. My question was, why was he talking about the fourth order magnitude, or like, he was talking about something expansion? I don't even know what he was talking about.
So
he kept interrupting you with that.
Yeah. So he was, like Witsit was saying, he was getting into a higher order mathematical abstraction of what they were measuring, which is the first order effect, which is why I had that equation highlighted, the 2D over v squared, or v squared over v squared, right? Like very specific relationship that they're measuring. So getting into another layer of abstraction isn't even the point of the paper at all, or what they were even claiming to measure. And then on top of that, what they did measure, nowhere in that paper, because it was like I had to start weighing, like, okay, do I want to have it back and forth with a guy who's going to immediately gaslight me on the reply? So I just didn't say anything. But when he said that when he was chalking up Michelson-Morley to an error, no, that's not what they said at all in the paper. You'll never find that. They actually did say something to that effect, but not in that paper, right? But what actually happened is, like, they say that measured displacement, they turned around with special relativity and used an inverse relationship to say that 5 kilometers a second is actually 30 kilometers a second in a different reference frame. And the fact that we measured not 30 kilometers a second is proof of the other reference frame, right? So you can't be like, oh, it's a instrumental error, right? You can't say that and then also have it be the backbone of special relativity on the mechanism of length contraction to produce a non 30 kilometer fringe. So
you can't have it both ways.
But it was like, do I?
Yeah.
But so I was like weighing the pros and cons of like getting gaslit to infinity. So I didn't say anything, but yeah.
Toby was having none of it too. That was funny.
That's why I'm trying to pop the after shows off now, because I realize it's so needed for the clarity for truth seekers and those that don't have the longing to find the truth. Who cares? But if I was like brand new to this subject and I listened, I'd be like intrigued by Alan and Toby, but I didn't get like conclusive clarity about these things because that's what they prevented the whole time, and that's what I'm trying to provide here. One thing
I have.
Go ahead. No, you good.
I was just gonna say, I definitely, I just kind of assume, I need to slow it down sometimes, but it's hard to do when you're getting interrupted. You're kind of being forced to rush.
Yeah, it's insane. So like you get it now, where it's like it's frustrating because you know that if you hit them super fast, or someone's trying to put you on the spot about magnetism, they're going to interrupt you. So you're like, well, the center is pure potential inertial state, and you have centrifugal divergence, the conjugate geometric expression. Like, there's no the conjugate geometric expression of centripetal convergence, and they're not going to know what you're saying. Each of those things requires time to explain. Like, you have the spatial extension, meaning it extends out in what we call space, right? Length, width, breadth. What we call space. You have the spatial extension. That's the magnetic portion, and it's divergent, right? It's centrifugal. It's divergent. It moves out to the edge. You have the convergent, which is non-spatial. We don't have Cartesian coordinates for that portion. Like, you don't have time to do anything like that in these debates. And so it's very frustrating, but I think you guys did very good. I think you guys beat me in many ways. You were able to keep it calm, and you could feel that you guys knew what you were talking about more than they did. Another one off the top of my head. So with the whole like seismology and how it supposedly proves the globe, right? Toby brought up so Tony made the claim like, no, I've done flat earth seismology. It's funny because shout out to Gleam. If you don't know who Gleam is, he's a legend. You show him some love. He makes really good music. Gleam said in the chat, we were making like a few bets with the Globers, and he added me, and he's like, bet that Tony claims to be a flat earth seismology expert. And I'm like, oh, I'm not taking that bet. And he did, right? He literally did. He claimed to be an expert. And he says that it shows that it doesn't work past, what did he say, like 200 kilometers.
Yeah.
So what's so funny is Toby immediately pointed out like, well, yeah, I read that paper, and it says that, well, it could work if you use differential timing. Now, that sounds, on its face, it could sound very heliocentric of you, right? It's like, well, we'll just change time itself. Or speed, because speed equals distance over time. So what happens is they're assuming a velocity. That dude will probably never debate me again because I saw all the cards right then. So let's just kind of break this down. You have epicenter, that's where the earthquake happens, it originates, and then it comes out from there and it sends out waves, right? Like vibration. It comes from the epicenter. And so they throw it in their globe model, and then they try to explain how it takes so long to get certain places. And like Toby said, actually, many earthquakes have shown that like a location that's way further from the epicenter on the globe will get the signal before a place that's way closer than it. How does that work? Right? So anytime they bring up like, oh, it spreads out perfect on the globe, like, no, there are earthquakes that don't. And so anyway, long story short, the way that they interpret it is they have a geophysical model, right? And their geological model has like different layers of the earth. And they say, okay, based on these layers, the wave will go through this material at this rate. Okay. And they predict them all the way down hundreds of miles. And of course, there shouldn't even be earthquake readings beyond like 300 miles. And there still is. In their model, there shouldn't be. All that to say that they have to make the assumptions of the layers to get the speed that it would go through that layer. Remember when Tony said, oh, well, we can go get volcanic rocks and then we can send waves through them in a lab and see how fast it goes. Well, like, how does the volcanic rock tell you what's 200 miles below the earth, right? And so I don't know if you guys want to kind of touch on that. I know you weren't really allowed to talk about it at all, but basically the point being it would work on a flat earth. You say it doesn't work because the timing, but that's because you're assuming the speed. So if you have a distance, you assume that based on the globe model, right? The longitude system. the latitude and longitude system, that's how you get your distance. You say it wouldn't work because of how long it takes to go that distance. So you assume the distance and you assume the speed and then say that the time wouldn't work. It's like, no, we have a time, but what's the actual distance? What's the actual speed? And to get the speed, they assume their globe Earth layer model. So you guys got completely cut off and you weren't allowed to talk about that at all. So I want to give you some time to kind of address
Hilariously, I would ask to Tony, like, what's your flat Earth model? Like, what's your model, right? Like, you say it doesn't work. Okay, well, I can come up with like literally like infinite number of flat Earth models from which to do these calculations, to do these computations. And when you look at that paper I brought up with the 2D versus 3D, gosh, the title of the paper is so freaking obtuse. 2D, 3D multiplied, transmitted, converted, and reflected arrivals in complex layer media with modified shortest path method. That's because it's literally just computations. The whole thing is computed.
Word salad.
The title of the paper. But yeah, it like literally by treating each layer that the wavefront enters as an independent computational domain, one obtains a transmitted and or converted branch of later arrivals by reinitializing it in the adjacent layer, and a reflected and or converted branch of later arrivals by reinitializing it in the incident layer. And then it talks about a bunch, like this paper goes into a ton about how they make a lot of their decisions based on what's the most computationally efficient. So like the whole thing is just being computed. And that's like what I was saying in the debate. It's like literally give me like a neural network or a supercomputer or whatever. Like, dude, I'll give you a donut Earth. Like, come on. Like, it's so outrageous to try and use these computations as proof of something.
Exactly. And so explain kind of what you mean by that. Like the computational networks, like how you can.
I think one of the best ways to illustrate it, I think, is with the speed of light, because you get into this argument that happened between Miller and Einstein, and were they actually measuring a fringe? Were they not? The periodicity and everything. Well, in 2017, they went to do a speed of light test, and in their math to look at the speed of light or whatever, they used resonance chambers, and as they were taking their measurements, they ran the whole thing through a model that removed the least weighted or the highest weighted errors that fell outside of relativity's predictions. And relativity's predictions, of course, rule out the daily period. They literally say in the paper they rule out a daily periodicity and annual, or it's either seasonal fluctuations or annual variations, which is exactly what Miller measured, right? But they just they use a model to make it fit within the relativistic predictions. So that's what they did there. So like that's just doing it on paper, like with an equation. They used error weighted least squares regression model that was error weighted. But then like with like LIGO, they go another step further with that. Instead of doing it on paper with a specific equation, they're essentially using machine learning to make everything that they detect with that apparatus fall within expected parameters of special relativity. So it doesn't matter what they actually measure, because they have a learning, like a deep learning algorithm running that's going to pick up on all the quote unquote anomalies that fall out of relativistic predictions and just calculate them out, or make corrections for it essentially. And they can do whatever they want, because there's no longer any relationship with reality. And this gets into that whole thing of math versus science, right? Like math is just describing things. It doesn't explain anything. And at this point, you've gone through like when you start using a neural network and weighted, neurons, quote unquote, of logic, you're so far from any sort of meaningful computation of reality that you might as well you could literally make up any reality that you want, and you throw enough computational power at it, and you can make it a reality through a bunch of machine learning algorithms that are just gonna math its way to whatever you want. It's just simulating things essentially.
Yeah, exactly. So you can assume your model, and then you have corrections made through a computational network that just makes all kinds of assumptions to try to correct for it, and then they act like that's proof of it. They don't want to talk about how that's what it actually is. Also,
and in that paper, real quick too, just to like be real clear with that paper, when they're talking about this part here where they say that it each layer they treat each layer as an independent computational domain. Like that's where I have I take big issue with it, because that means that they're able to they're making a lot of assumptions by doing that. That means that they're taking ad hoc measurements. They're trying to make assertions about the layers from these measurements, but then they're treating each layer as its own computational domain. So there's no cohesiveness to their computations, if that makes any sense. It could be totally abstracted, nothing to do with reality, and we would never know. But yeah.
Yeah, couple more things. For all the people claiming that these papers don't really exist, we don't know what they mean, we'll never send the sources, we're scared to send them, where would be a place people could go to kind of get a decent compilation of a lot of the sources that we discuss?
So
yes, I actually meant to do that before
GitHub.
the debate. Go ahead, Alan.
Yeah, I have a GitHub that has a bunch of like all the ether wind interferometry experiments. So here's the link for that. I'll put that in your chat. People can get a lot of it there. So there's a zip file you download, and I got all the PDFs in that. And then there's also my Telegram channel. I put a lot of the sources in there, the stuff that I go over. So I'll link that as well.
Nice.
And then Shane's got a big old archive on through Obsidian, right? Still.
Yep.
So we've got
a chat as well.
Yeah, we got a ton of stuff there. Like we make everything public, like ad nauseum, bro. Like anyone that ever hits us up for a source, like ask around. Like we deliver. We're like Pizza Hut, dude. Did you order a source 15 minutes ago? Oh, I got you, dude. The next one's free.
Exactly. So like this whole like script, they're saying that, you know, you guys never actually provide the papers because it doesn't actually say what you're saying, and like, no, that's wrong. And we can predict your next move. Actually, while we're at it, you're gonna call them quacks, dismiss it, and come up with an excuse as to why it's not valid, and say that, oh well, it's not peer reviewed enough, right? We already know what you're gonna say. So if you guys see, I'm sharing the screen, and I want to kind of alley-oop Alan here. So if you'll click on my screen in the Discord so you guys can hear it, make sure you turn the volume up. I'm going to play it for the people on YouTube.
Pre-dunk.
Yeah. So this is a nice little
what's this alley-oop you speak of, bro?
This little
pre-dunk.
My bad. It's a crossover alley-oop pre-dunk. So
can I give a three-step Glober analysis for their response? Step 1 goes to Tony. Tony, hand wave dismiss. Now off to Darryl. Number 2, gaslight. Back to Tony. All right, credential fallacy. All right, move on to the next topic.
Yeah, pretty much, exactly. All right, we're going to play a few seconds of the debate right here because this was very telling. Now, if you don't remember, Darryl really thought he had a home run. He found some random fourth order portion of the paper, and he said, you guys don't even know how to do this. You don't even understand it. I knew immediately that dude didn't know anything about MMX. Right, like he doesn't know even the first thing. That's why he's trying to get a gotcha. Oh, we don't need to talk about anything about it because I found a paper where they couldn't randomly just pop up their iPad and do the math live or whatever, like this weirdo tactic. So let's play this part of the debate and then we can explain
Toby's
it.
face says it all right there.
It's pretty wild. So let's check it out.
Crossing over as if they understand it, which totally undermines not only their argument about Sagnac, but they whole argument together. This same understanding, or you should say lack of understanding, by which they present themselves as if they understand this more than the experts in it. It's the same understanding that they use on everything else. So that's why I want to focus on this. So what did you want to say about it, Alan?
I think about 50% of their argument has been gaslighting. Isn't that insane?
All right, cool. So we're back to the fourth order thing that you were describing here. So this was what did you call it? What was the name again, please?
It's a Taylor expansion.
Taylor expansion. Right. So when they get back down here, though, to this part where they're just showing 2dv over v squared over the velocity, right? What's that doing? What is that? Is that a first order or second order relationship that they're deriving with the velocity of Earth versus the velocity of light?
You all behaved.
I didn't do that, Matt. You supposed to have done the math because you're the one that brought it up.
Well, it's a simple question. You don't have to do any math. It's just the relationship that they're measuring right here, right? So when you say that this part is about the Taylor transformation, or sorry, what was it again? Taylor thing?
You don't even understand the basis. This is where I'm coming from. Let's back up.
No, you talked for a minute and gaslit the fuck out of me. So I'm gonna about how I don't know this
Actually,
shit.
y'all talked almost the whole time. I didn't really get anything in. So if you would let me actually get a little bit in. I mean, to be honest, y'all had the floor almost the whole time.
Yeah, I want to give the floor to you, Darryl. I haven't
pause for a second. And this is exactly what's wrong with Ryan.
I felt bad for him because I was like, yeah, we did kind of. Have like a whole side conversation and like leave him out of the early part of it. So I was like, all right, dude, I'll let you get in more gaslighting, and then we never got back to it.
Yeah, this is exactly what's wrong with Ryan, though, where you asked a question, he avoided it, and he's like, I want to let him get it. So that reminds me that actually, right, there's a portion right before this where he just blatantly has no idea what it is. And I want us to kind of, I'm going to switch browsers here. It's glitching out, but I want us to like actually cover what this is about. This is the reason I pulled this up, because this is important. And he tried to bring up right here, right, neglecting terms of the fourth order. Like, neglecting terms of the fourth order. He claims to have done the math, or really he just wanted to see if they knew how to do the Taylor expansion, right? Which, let me bust your bubble here, buddy. Give me 5 minutes to learn it. Like, it doesn't make the Earth a globe, but anyway, like, I just want to cover this. This is the most important part. Let's see if I think this is the part right here. It should be the part where
at this part
he doesn't actually know what he's talking about. So once this loads, we're going to play it, and then Alan, I just want to give you a second to kind of explain it. Right
over the velocity.
I hope you all behaved.
I didn't do that, Matt.
Wait. It's a little before this, because I remember you said something to him before, and then he's like, "Oh, Alan, what was your question?"
It's a lack of understanding by which they present themselves as if they understand this more than the experts in it. It's the same.
Oh, we're gonna get it.
I can't really remember. I hope it was a good part.
I think that this is the part where you originally asked him, even though the share screen was so messed up, and then, oh my gosh,
about the Michelson-Morley experiment, which you're very good at. Off you go.
Tony, and I'll jump in here. And Tony, you actually make a good point. And obviously, as a scientist, you know how to get straight to the heart of the matter, calculating distances, which they can't do. One reason why I find this topic interesting is because, like, looking at Alan's debate, I was looking at him talking about.
I'd like to take this opportunity to point out how great he's doing a job of moderating here.
This stuff, and clearly he didn't understand what he was talking about, like I just pointed out. And yet there were people in the chat saying, "Oh, that is killing them," because they didn't understand either. So that's why I want to go ahead and point out the fact that these people don't really understand the math that they're glossing over as if they understand.
So what's his whole point is that we don't understand the math. Okay.
Understand it, which totally undermines not only the
little ad
argument
hom,
about
by the way.
Sagnac, but the whole
it was
argument
painful
together.
to watch
This
these
same
ad homs for 3 hours.
or you should say lack of understanding by which they present themselves as if they understand this more than the experts in it. It's the same understanding.
Wait, Demon's try. Wait, I just want to hear this part.
Everything else. So that's why I want to focus on this. So what did you want to say about it, Alan?
I think about 50% of their argument has been gaslighting.
Okay, so and we just heard this part. So this is where he then asks him, what is this part of the equation? And he has no idea. He wants to talk about the fourth order computations.
Dude, the neglection of the fourth order, bro.
Exactly.
Literally the most non sequitur of non sequiturs, bro.
So, and Demon's try. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, yeah, I just want to say we watched you guys the other night, tonight over at MMM. You guys did a really good job. I think this one right here is really where you guys need to knuckle down. This is where everyone on the globe side is like salivating, right? So I don't know if you guys are gonna tackle this.
We're doing it right now. We're doing it right now.
Are they in MMM right now?
No, we're doing it right now. That's why this after show exists. This is what's so funny. They're salivating. I got $1,000 that in a week none of them will even address it. This is what's so funny. This dude said, haha, you don't know what the fourth order Taylor expansion is. Now, he didn't actually prove that he even knew what it was, but actually the paper talks about the neglecting of the terms of a fourth order, where he then proceeds to talk about other things to try to make it work because it wasn't working. That's what it's about. It's about adding additional layers of computation to try to explain away the result not expected. And it didn't work. So they had to neglect the terms of these fourth order presuppositions. But now this is the most important equation in the entire thing. So his whole point was about how they didn't understand the math. They don't understand the math. Ha ha ha. He didn't understand the primary equation of the entire thing. And so now that Alan's not going to be incessantly interrupted and prevented from talking about it, I want Alan to explain what this equation is and why it's important in terms of like the entire test, if you don't care to.
No, yeah. So the 2D is the distribution of light, right? So that's like that would be like the area that it has to travel, essentially, right? So that's the there and back of the apparatus, right? And then the v squared, the little v, is the velocity of Earth, and then the divided by big V is, or squared, is the velocity of light. So what they're doing there is they're establishing a ratio that light will be retarded by if there is a velocity measurement of 30 kilometers a second. So that's how they get their fringe prediction for how much the wavelength will, I mean, how much the fringe shift will, how much fringes there will be, so that they can get the velocity, right? So that's how it works. That's the most important part of it. That's what the experiment was about. It wasn't about measuring the ether. That's a retarded straw man. The velocity component is what's in question here with the stationary ether. So what that means is any velocity measurement that shows up in this equation, or not the equation, sorry, any velocity that's measured, right, isn't due to, they're saying it's not due to the ether, right? It's due to the motion of the Earth. So they were fully expecting to get a fringe shift that would correspond to a velocity that would show a relationship where 30 kilometers over the speed of light, right? So that's what would give, like, that the speed that light gives, right, will be affected by that velocity. That's what produces the fringe. It's the most important part of the equation.
Exactly. That's what produces the fringe. Right,
yeah.
right.
Well, the prediction,
So-
but yeah.
Wait. So
that-
I sent a super chat and I said, "You keep talking so much about how they don't understand the math, and you claim that it didn't have anything to do with the motion of the Earth. Okay, what did they use to get the predicted value for the fringe shift?" And they both ducked the question entirely. Why? Because it actually uses the velocity of the Earth in the literal equation that's used to get the predicted value of the fringe shift, to then compare the results to that result and say it was a null result. You actually have to use the velocity of the Earth to then get how much fringe shift should exist to even be able to turn around and call it a null result. To claim it had nothing to do with detecting the motion of the Earth is retarded. The actual fringe shift is literally a detection of the motion of the Earth based on the assumed velocity of 30 kilometers a second. That's the most ironic part of this whole thing. Like, to go around tout victory with this dude, like using some weird little gotcha he didn't even understand, is weird to me. Right? And so I sent the super chat literally ask. So wait, let's listen to Alan. This is like 15 seconds. Listen to Alan ask him and hear what he says real fast.
Cool. So we're back to the, what was it? The fourth order thing that you were describing here. So this was a, what did you call it? What was the name again, please?
It's a Taylor expansion.
Taylor expansion. Right. So when they get back down here, though, to this part where they're just showing 2dv over v squared over the velocity, right? What's that doing? What is that? Is that a first order or second order relationship that they're deriving with the velocity of Earth versus the velocity of light?
You all behaved.
I didn't do that, Matt.
I didn't do that math, and Alan told him the answer in the question, and he told him it has the velocity of Earth in it. I didn't do that math. Oh, okay. So then I pointed out later in a super chat, right? Like, do you even know what 2d times v squared over v squared is? Completely ducked it. So how can you come into a thing and be like, oh, I know exactly how the math works. Haha, you're wrong because you don't know how the math works. And then admit you don't even know how the base equation about the entire fringe shift value works. A fourth order computation after the fact has nothing to do with the fringe shift. This is hilariously ignorant.
That I'd say is probably one of the key things for this argument. And like I'm saying, like the Globers are just biting on that. Not necessarily right now. We're onto something else, but we're onto bullshit right now in the MMM. Nothing about this. I'm just saying. For everyone watching that though, I guarantee you, all the Globers saw that and they were like, "Fucking done, you dummies.
And mind you, we try to keep the F bombs to a minimum. It's all love, but
that's good for us because any of them that wants to try to stand on that will get they'll find out real quick.
yeah, exactly.
Not the route to take.
Yeah, so I need 20 push-ups. But it's okay. It's okay. It's a warning shot. But like, yo, do you see the? I agree with you, Demon Stride. Right? Like when people see it, they're so thirsty for flat earthers being wrong about something that they're going to be like, "Oh, they got exposed. They didn't know what the fourth order was." Right? I agree. I knew it immediately. And actually, Alan and Toby are so nice that they're not going to scream over some belligerent dude named Tony. They're not.
Tony was so bad at it. Like. It was so bad. Like I called out as a Kraken, man. It's not even worth listening to him at some points. Like his opponent had to shut him down several times through the debate. It was like, oh, thank you for like, no, Tony, I got this. Like, thank you. Oh,
yeah. His teammate, yeah. So it's like, obviously, I knew that like Alan was viewing it like, bro, I'm not about to scream and then still get interrupted because this is like something that requires someone actually wanting to understand it. And I do agree that it's a good tactic, and that's what I was breaking down earlier. If you appeal to emotion and you try to fulfill some type of stereotype of flat flurfs not understanding math and anything, and the first law of flurf being that all their citations debunk them and all this nonsense, and just gaslight them and don't let them respond, then yeah, people that are so thirsty for flat earthers to be wrong, they'll say, ha ha ha, I got it. But that means you're not a truth seeker. Because your position requires you acknowledge what this equation means. It's specifically about the motion of the Earth, hence it being in the title and the first paragraph and the literal equation that gives you the friendship prediction. That's what it's all about. It's you use interferometry to detect motion. Motion of what? The Earth. Okay, so the friendship didn't match the detection of motion of the Earth that was expected. It's just like basic 101 stuff. And your model would be like, okay, here's the reason why we don't detect the motion of the Earth. So to have your script be like, it's not about detecting the motion of the Earth, is super weird. It's super weird. So I wanted to give it time to Alan broke it down, but just so the audience understands, the V in the equation, there's two V's. One's about light, the velocity of light. One's about the velocity of the speed of the Earth. The velocity of the Earth. You literally use the distance and the velocity of light and the velocity of the Earth to get the fringe shift that you should get, because if the Earth is moving, then the two light beams are going to intersect. One's going to be separated from the other because of the motion. So it's pretty wild because.
And they presume it's constant.
I was just gonna say when you're saying like you can't use a fourth order transform for a first order equation or whatever, that phraseology is the thing that's hanging everyone up right now. It's, even on the globe side, they like you hear that from both sides. It's like. You guys can use it in one instance, and it's like it's just monkey wrench. It's a monkey wrench all galore. So maybe find a way to verbose that to victory. I don't know.
Yeah, I get you, but like I'm all for like really breaking down what their third and fourth order measurements were, but like I feel like people don't even know what that means. So first order is the direct measurement. Then second would be any additional computations you did after that to the first measurement. Third would be the additional one. Fourth would be the extra additional computation. That's what the order means, right? It's fourth in order of the original measurement. An original measurement would be first order. People argue that it's second order because you have the speed of light two ways. So it's like it's not actually a one-way measurement of the speed of light or whatever, right? So they'll call it a two order or second order. So the third and fourth are just like computations that have nothing to do with our point. Because that's why Alan will tell you this is actually a first order measurement, right? And they do the second because they need to start doing all kinds of transforms and messing with things. So Alan, go ahead.
So here's where like vernacularly, I don't know if that's the right word, but here's where it gets a little confusing with the terminology with the first and second, thirds and fourth orders, right? Because we're talking about a first order effect, right, which would be the motion. Then you would have a first order measurement of that, which would be where you could establish a direct relationship with that, with the velocity, right? So how do they do what makes that a first order measurement? Well, that V over V, right? So they have it squared in this equation, but there's also an unsquared derivation. So that relationship 1-to-1 would be the velocity affects the speed of light. So it's dividing, it's getting a ratio, right? So that's how they do that. So that would be a first order interpretation. Now they have it V squared over C squared. So that would be a second order mathematical interpretation of a first order effect, which would be the velocity itself in question, right? So you got to stay on top of like the orders of how you're talking about and what you're talking about, because then you get into, okay, well, what about the fourth order extrapolation? What about a Lorentz transformation? What about a second order effect to explain these? It's like, well, okay, let's analyze what's being measured here. A first order effect. So there's a direct velocity relationship with the speed of light. Okay, cool. What's a second order effect? What does that mean? Well, that would be where you set up for a Lorentz transformation to change reference frames to explain the velocity component through another reference frame, like hypothetically that doesn't exist. Like right there, boom, you're not talking first order, you're not talking direct relationships with anything. You've removed yourself entirely from the first order measurement, and now you're onto a second order interpretation. And that's where they get away with that in relativity explicitly, right? Because it's a kinematic theory based on, you can't tell relative motion. Hold on 1 second. It's all relative. So they'll take the fringe displacement that was measured and say that in another reference frame it's 30 kilometers a second. That's a whole nother layer of abstraction that doesn't apply to what we could show a cause and effect relationship with on the first order. Does that make sense?
I'm definitely over my head.
Yeah, and that's why I will say visuals are good. And just a reminder, anyone that wants to share their screen, including Alan, because you see the share screen was bad there. You don't have to do it right now, but if you want to share your screen, just say you're going to share your screen, and then that way everyone can see it. But it's a simple concept. It's a simple concept. Like the actual original measurements are what's important, and any like additional assumptions and computations after the fact is completely irrelevant. It's called a red herring fallacy. It's also ironic. The dude was talking about the math, didn't know the base equation. That's all there is to it. And they didn't address the point. Their point is the base equation, the actual thing that can be shown to show a proportional relationship with velocity, and specifically the alleged velocity of the Earth that would give you the fringe shift that wasn't detected. That's the whole thing. And they don't understand that. They don't even understand the paper. So that shows they came in here with bad faith. They looked at the paper. They tried to find one thing that they thought they may not know mathematically, and then put them on the spot. Like, I did a Taylor expansion when I was in high school. Like, it's just weird as hell. It's super lame. And I guarantee you they'll never address the argument. Darryl will never come back and be like, oh, well, now that you talk about it, yeah, it is actually about the velocity of the Earth, and it didn't actually match the predicted fringe shift, because that's how we got the predicted fringe shift with the velocity of the Earth assumption, and it didn't match it. Like, he didn't know any of that. Like, Tony had to come in and save him and be like, instrumental error. So I'm saying.
These equations and transforms can, like, from first order to second order, are they linear, like in one direction, or can you go from like a first order to second order, or is it impossible to go from like a third to a second? Like, are they only one direction to the other? Like,
it's going to go first. It's going to go first up. It's going to go first up. Each order is an additional computation or transform. Okay. And
if I was going to apply a fourth to a second order, would that be like, it would be doable, but you've got all these other calculations there?
Fourth is going to have to come from the second, right? Like,
right, exactly. So you can go backwards, but you should.
Of course, you have to go back. Like, yeah, you're going to be able to go backwards because you had to go forward to get there. But okay, I just wanted to point that out. They don't understand that it's obviously 2 times the distance over the velocities of light and the Earth. Now, here's another part that was super funny to me. Okay, so this is where they brought up that you can detect neutrinos. All right, so let's listen to this part and how they tried to gaslight Toby about this part and show how insane what they said was. I'll just be a few seconds and then I'll open it up.
All right, we will go back to what we were just discussing, and thank you so much, Tony, for answering the question.
Here's one paper. So ionization of the Earth's atmosphere by solar and galactic cosmic rays, and they're talking about how they use a new methodology, calibrated direct observations, but they use a numerical models, and then ionization of the atmosphere comparison between measurements and simulations. Some discrepancies are found between actual measurements. What do you know?
This was What's this got to do with solar neutrinos?
Just wait.
Showing that they compute the whole thing, and it's every time
These are cosmic ray calculations.
What's that?
I was thinking as well.
These are cosmic ray calculations. They're
that's what
not
I'm showing.
Solar neutrino observations.
Okay, let's cover. What did they claim? That you can detect neutrinos that come from the sun, and it verifies the Earth's a globe, because you can look down below your feet and say that those neutrinos are coming from the sun, which means the sun has to be on the other side of a globe. That's their argument. So these neutrino detections are supposedly from the sun. These are cosmic ray detections, not neutrinos from the sun. Is that what they just said? Let's hear what they say here.
Yeah.
These are cosmic ray calculations.
What's that?
I was thinking as well.
These are cosmic ray calculations. They're
Yeah, that's what
not
I'm showing.
solar neutrino observations.
Cosmic, so a neutrinos, you're trying to tell me neutrinos not related to a cosmic ray?
Yes.
Okay, now let me Google this insanely ridiculous comment. My goodness. Cosmic radiation is produced by the stars, including our own sun. Obviously, anything coming from the sun would be a cosmic ray. If you're claiming that neutrinos come from the sun, then that would be a cosmic ray neutrino detection, right? Holy. Are you kidding me? They don't know that they think the sun's a star? They don't know what cosmic rays are? The neutrinos come from the sun, and that has nothing to do with cosmic rays. So you see,
my whole point was, how you would, it's not so simple to measure it because they literally say they come from every direction.
Bro,
So,
exactly. In fact, just like you said, they claim that neutrino detection is so sporadic and instantaneous that like their half-life is like their detection of the ability to detect them is so sporadic and unreliable. They run all that through computational networks. Like neutrinos are well known to be the least understood aspect of like physics. Right? Like sometimes they look like they go faster than the speed of the light. They go through all kinds of materials. We don't fully understand them. The way they claim to even detect them is a joke. Okay, so they're claiming to isolate them just from the sun. That's a joke. But then they tried to like show that you didn't know what you're talking about because you show that they run them through computational networks, which is the truth. When they come up with this, and I've already looked into this, they create a little image by creating contrasted images with RGB filters, red, green, blue filters. They overlay that through a computational network that claims to isolate like a concentrated section of neutrinos. And based on their globe model, they put the globe model in there, the current position of the sun in relation to your feet, right? In the globe model. So they assume where the sun is, they assume what the earth is, they assume where the sun is in relation to the earth that they assume. Then they say, okay, there would be a concentrated area of neutrinos here. And then they actually use RGB through the computational network to create an image that supposedly shows where they are. They use the detections, they isolate them, they run through the computational networks, and they try to show the concentration, of course, being the strongest near the center, because that's what it would be in their model. And I've looked through it, it's admittedly super shaky, right? And so you were right. You actually destroyed their argument. You were exactly correct. But they'll just pretend that Tony's like, these are cosmic rays, and the other guy's like, yeah, that's what I was thinking, Tony. Like, well, you're both retarded then.
Such a goober.
Neutrinos aren't, part of cosmic rays, like negate his whole argument that, neutrinos is how we can tell.
He's basically saying that neutrinos that come from rays from the sun aren't cosmic rays. Like, oh, that's crazy, because they just like objectively would be. So yeah, I just wanted to point that out as well. I mean, there's a tons of things. So do you guys have any, let's do it this way, and then I'll start like going back to more parts of the video if you guys are cool with it. But and by the way, if you want to support the stream, or if you have specific questions you want to ask, it's kofi.com/Witsit, pinned at the chat, link in the description.
I'll just step away for 1 second. I'll be right back.
Cool. Actually, let me use this opportunity to read what I've already missed here with the Kofi. Okay, so we have Melissa. She said, let me pop up on the screen real quick. Melissa said, oh, you already read that. Since you spent so much on Super Chats, thank you so much. Much love. And then we have my boy Shane St. Pierre. Hey, real quick, Shane, shout out your stuff, bro. Plug yourself.
Oh yeah, adl.place, courtesy of Toby, has all the links, the database to research, all the stuff that we do, all the things that we argue, all the presentations that we've done is all on adl.place. You can find it there. Thanks,
and if you don't know what ADL is, it's the most trustworthy, incredible organization ever that keeps us safe from people that have the audacity to say things hatefully. So they protect us from hate speech. But Shane has his own ADL, and that's the Anti-Disinformation League. And so if you go to adl.place, you'll be able to to keep up with my boy Shane. He said, since they demonetized your YouTube, this is to replace the money you inject back into the community since you're such a grifter and don't keep any money for yourself. Thank you so much. It's super generous donation is $100. But can we get a round of applause for Shane? Hey, round of applause. I know it's hard to get people to open their mic, but yeah. Shout out to you, man. Yeah, by the way, I'm creating a soundboard. But shout out to Shane, man. Thank you so much for the support, brother, man. Super generous. And yeah, that is funny. It's like I'm such a grifter that like I spend more on super chats and other flat earth debates than I make on YouTube.
I was thinking about that.
It's funny, yeah. I will say, so just to point this out, I am going to create a soundboard, and I want to do these more often because I found out that like there's not really good places for after shows. So if flat earthers I respect do it, I'm going to do an after show. And I want to maybe do like debate recaps, kind of like Mindshock does. And I want to have a fallacy counter. I want to have an interruption counter. And then a duck the question counter, right? And we'll just count them, bro. And we'll show you how ridiculous it is. And occasionally, depending on the debate, I may do it live. But yeah, anyway, just so you guys know, a lot of people ask me to do logical breakdowns, kind of like Mindshock, and we'll do it that way. All right, cool. So I don't know if Toby's back, but I know Alan is still here, or anyone else is on the panel. Is there another part of the debate you guys want to bring up?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I do. So there was a part when we were about to get into the Sagnac effect, and we started talking about inertial frames, and for some reason, homie was like, I'm not sure what his contention was, but it seemed like he was, I don't know, it was crazy, but he started like questioning me on like what's an inertial frame and all this stuff. So I was wanting to go down like the full steelman of the Sagnac effect in the history of relativity.
Cool, yeah, and you can share your screen too if you want.
Nah, I'm good. I'll just do it off the top.
Okay.
So 1913, or actually before that, right? So special relativity comes around, and old Einstein says, "Hey, look, man, we don't need no absolute space. We don't need to assign imaginary vectors for electromagnetic propagation where it once occurred." And what he's saying is that he doesn't have to invoke absolute space or the concept of like an ether as a reference frame mathematically to explain anything, right? Or to explain relative motion and etc., right? And then off the back of that, he later says in the paper, like how he defines an inertial frame in his own words, right? Because what's more important than like not some dude's interpretation of how he feels a reference frame should be, determined or whatever, right? What did Einstein say originally, right? So Einstein gives an example of a closed polygon circuit and uniform rotation, and he says that if Newton's equations hold good in that, then his equations should hold good, right? So he defined a uniformly rotating platform, right, as an inertial frame. Now, why did he do that? Because if you extend any portion of that rotating platform to infinity, you won't deviate much from a linear effect, right? So it's all the same essentially, is what he's saying, right? So with that said, we have clear instructions to interpret Sagnac's experimental results and why Sagnac thought that he, falsified relativity, right? Because what they actually do now is they co-opt the effect and say it's actually proof of relativity, but, we'll get into that. So anyway, with these clear parameters in mind, Sagnac in 1913 used a uniformly rotating platform to show that there is that the speed of light changes proportional to the velocity of that uniform rotation, right? So what Einstein defined as an inertial frame, an observer on a uniformly rotating platform, right, where the laws of physics should be the same, there's a fringe displacement where there shouldn't be. So the speed of light should be the same in that frame, but it's not. So they were like, oh, snap, what do we do? How do we explain this? So this went unanswered until 1917 when I can't remember the lady's name, but I think was some lady who gave the first derivation for special relativity, and she couldn't. Basically, the issue, right, is that there's not like for a rotating device, like on a local level, it's not fast enough to generate link contraction and time dilation to physically explain the fringe shift that's measured, right? And the fringe shift that's measured is due to the speed of light changing. So she put forward was a geometrically convenient position where they basically invoke an observer in the center of the rotating device which they say like, okay, this is an observer that's stationary with respect to the absolute stars, and then this person hypothetically is watching the rotating device, and that's how they explain the fringe shift pattern. They allow it by invoking another perspective, and then they say that it's okay. So that's obviously retarded, right? Like, so they didn't end up taking that as the mainstream explanation. So what happened is that a year later in 1918, Paul Lavue came along and was like, yo, I got you on that general relativity explanation. Here's how we're going to explain it. The device is rotating, therefore it's an acceleration. If it's an acceleration, we could use general relativity and conserve the energy of the rotating device into a gravitational field, and say that that's generating temporal pockets of length contraction and time dilation enough to explain the local Sagnac rotating device, right? Because through that they can use tensor calculus in their to basically conserve the energy and momentum in the gravitational field, which they will say that equivalence principle from the rotational energy is equivalent to gravitation, and that was what generates the length contraction time dilation. So they're like, oh, okay, cool, bet, we nailed it, got it. So, and then 1914 rolled around, where they did another Sagnac experiment, where this time the detector and the source were fixed to the lab wall, and it was basically just reflecting from a rotating disk, and they found that there was a proportional velocity delay in in what would constitute as an actual inertial frame, right, being fixed to the lab wall. The speed of light has to be the same. There can't be any difference. And that Paul Lavue could not, the same guy that provided the general relativity explanation for it, right, with the observer on the rotating device, same guy. He goes, bet, I'll go ahead and explain this. And he tried with all his might, all his relativity might, dude. He couldn't explain it. He was off by a factor of 10. So they can't explain it, even invoking geometrically convenient positions, which they say, all reference frames are equally valid. They're not. They say that for mathematical convenience, they invoke a geometrically convenient position. So this hypothetical observer that I'm talking about, that they invoke to be at the center of the rotating device, to watch another observer that's at the rim of the device, and that person sees that the speed of light is different. Sounds super retarded. It's because it is. Don't worry. But anyway, that whole framework is based off of that.
Dun dun dun.
And they can't, so they're like, okay, we have all reference frames equally valid. So just for funsies, though, we're going to invoke the center of the device so that we could do all this. And even when they do that, they still couldn't derive the fringe pattern in an inertial frame. So falsified again in 1942, right? And then on top of that, modern inertial navigation systems actually have a mechanism that would counteract length contraction and time dilation. So they have piezoelectric transducers in the device that that physically deform proportional to the electric energy put into them, that will adjust the mirror's length when the beam is not at its maximum intensity. So if there was any actual length contraction and time dilation going on, right, that mechanism would be corrected by the piezoelectric transducers. So like they don't even go with that explanation anymore. So when you read an inertial navigation manual, how they explain the Sagnac effect to everyone, right, is they give that, they abandoned Paul Lavue, shout out to Paul Lavue, they abandon the general relativistic explanation, and they say, look guys, this is a much easier explanation. Center of the rotating device, observer, blah, 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 right? Now, what's the problem with that? Well, that's invoking a time differential to explain the difference, and by doing that, they're changing the distance traveled too, so they can't even explain the fringe pattern, right? But they have a nice equation though to pretend, but what they're teaching people in the inertial navigation manual, right? Like, how could they all be in on it? Aren't all these right? No, the manual literally doesn't tell them that it violates special relativity. So why would they ever know that?
Pop the champagne bottles. Let's make bubbles in space.
I mean, don't they invoke a time differential, even though it's literally measured in the lab frame to begin with?
Yep. So that's the other thing too, is the time differential from this hypothetical observer in relation to the observer on the rim of the rotating device, right? This hypothetical time differential, right? Well, the fringe displacement is predicted in the lab, and the measurement of the device, of the rotating device, is the same as the lab prediction, like the velocity component measured. So therefore, the time on the rotating device is for an observer anywhere on that device is the same as what was predicted in the lab frame. The hypothetical invocation of absolute space to explain it is 1, unnecessary, and 2, inadequate to explain it, because again, if you change the time and distance, you can't explain the physical fringe pattern, the actual displacement that gives you the proportional velocity measurement.
Yeah, isn't the? I mean, when you look at the fringe pattern and you see it with your eyeballs or with your camera, you're literally.
Sorry. And real quick though, to wrap that all up, and for some reason he cut me off before we got to any of that to talk about what an inertial frame is. So, so I'm glad that stifled the whole conversation before we could go anywhere with it. And that's the whole history in Steelman of the effects and the change in narrative. Right? There's a paper by Niklaus something in 1960, and he goes over about 24 different derivations that they try to give to answer the Sagnac effect in the confines of special relativity. And spoiler alert, there is none. Right? When Toby and I were recently talking to an academic about it, who was a little more intellectually honest than the people that we were debating tonight, he tried to derive the Sagnac effect through special relativity. Guys, he lost his mind, made 4 YouTube videos about it, never derived it, and started asking me to check his math. The guy who doesn't have a math degree, he wanted my input on it to see if he figured it out right. Guys, he didn't. It's real easy. C plus or minus V. That's it.
You left the detail out there. He made 4 videos, deleted one of them, and then re-released it with a correction.
Oh, with the correct, it still didn't have an actual derivation to explain it.
Wait, is that the guy that really wanted to debate me fairly?
Not fairly. He was the guy that tried to set up the 2v1 where he was going to moderate, and by moderate he means completely interject and make you clarify everything to get you in a gotcha.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But have the immunity of I'm just the moderator, man.
Yeah, but I want to debate you at the same time. Yeah,
I'm just an impartial observer watching this. Yeah, it's like, okay, dude.
All right, I got a confession. I got a confession to make. Can you guys see my screen? Do you see the debate? Yeah. Oh, I need to share. Let me actually change. I forgot to change for you guys.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I'm changing servers. So, all right, here. You still see the debate, right?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. I'm going to play this real quick. I got a confession to make. All right, let's play it for just a sec.
Yeah, we want to have chit chat afterwards. We can. Mind Mastery TV. The globe Earth proponents are actually pushing me away from the globe. Why would you guys need to scream, interrupt, and gaslight the flat earthers? So Mind Mastery is making a commentary on the meta.
That was me. Nice.
Dude, I was like, shout out to that guy.
Is that the one where I looked at the camera and nodded?
Yeah. Didn't even get responded to. That was me.
Why would you guys need to scream, interrupt, and gaslight the flat earthers? So Mind Mastery is
good point.
Touche.
Mind Mastery TV, baby. That was one of the YouTubes I started to build, and then I was like, nah, I'm straight on this. All right, let me play this other part here. I should keep up with the timestamps during the debate. All right, let's check this part out here.
Comes up, and so you can tell from the direction what's happened.
All right,
that's only possible on a sphere.
All right, Alexander L says Darryl is low-key killing it. There you go. You got a fan super chat coming in for you as well. All right.
I have to second that.
I think everybody's gotten at least one. That's kind of nice. WitsitGetsIt says, Tony, your model objectively requires velocity assumptions. How do you verify the layer compositions? You cannot, and they have actually been proven wrong.
Proven wrong is a complete misstatement. That's Witsit lying again about the contents of scientific journals.
Which is not in the debate, bro.
And we know the material composition on large scale. We can calculate. We can construct minerals. We can subject them to high pressure.
Yeah, I'm playing this to show. Let's dissect his answer. Let's dissect his answer.
What did he just say, bro? I was tuned out. I did not even hear what he said. That was just said we can grow minerals.
Yeah, I was crying, bro. Listen to this answer, bro. Just so you guys know, man. Learn something, bro.
And we know the material composition on large scale. We can calculate. We can construct minerals. We can subject them to high pressure and high temperature, and therefore we can work it out. And we work out that that's a pretty good estimate for the baseline, and that the anomalies from that are small.
He's coming back with another one. WitsitGetsIt asks, volcanic rocks don't tell you what is 200 miles
That's where he starts rubbing his head and freaking out.
Yeah, that's my favorite. This is my favorite one. Let this one play, and then we'll discuss it. Because I brought this up because it's important. I think it's important.
He's from that are small.
He's coming back with another one. WitsitGetsIt asks, volcanic rocks don't tell you what is 200 miles below. LOL. 10 seconds.
That's not true. That's absolutely not true. Mid-ocean ridge basalts come from hundreds of kilometers deep. That's
How do you know that?
That's just another barefaced lie.
All right, Mama.
Okay. Let's discuss this right here, okay? I think it's important. So, seismology, right? Toby pointed out that they do have velocity assumptions, and he's like, well, you can use a time differential, and then the flat earth model would work, right? And it's based on you assuming speeds. And he's like, no, right? So then I sent the super chat that says, your model objectively does have velocity assumptions, and how do you actually verify the composition assumptions that you're making? You cannot, and in fact, they've been proven wrong. They have been proven wrong. You can just look up, something called a great unconformity. The sedimentary layers don't work. You can look up S and P waves. I don't say them P and S waves, but anomalies. You can look up all kinds of velocity distribution anomalies and stuff like that. And in the actual layers assumptions that they make, they don't work. They just don't work. So what do? They run them through all kinds of different networks to make corrections. They say, oh, this must be a different area under the earth. This place is special. Something crazy is going on. And Toby said it perfectly. He said, like, what? How do you know what's going on under there? You're just making assumptions, right? And then I said, volcanic rocks can't, tell you how old stuff is. And just like he said, like, how do you know that they're supposedly from that far down? I'm going to open up to anyone that's there, but you guys obviously see the glaring problem here. They have a globe model. They have different layers. And if those that don't know, they dug the borehole in Russia, went down 7.8 miles, and they noticed that the globe predictions for each of the layers, just 7.8 miles down, were wrong the whole way. Where it was hot, it was cold. Where it was supposed to be hot, it was cold. Where it was supposed to be wet, it was dry, and vice versa. It was just awful. They were wrong the whole way down 8 miles. And in his entire pseudoscientific degree, requires that their assumptions about what's 200, 300, 400, 500 miles down is correct. And in fact, all the way down to the very base assumption of the core. And just so everyone understands, that what they do is they interpret the speed at which these waves go through those layers. They rarely match because they enforce that on a globe. We don't live on a globe. So of course they're wrong. Of course their layers are wrong. So they're constantly doctoring it to say, oh, they're just anomalies to make the speeds match. I just want everyone to make sure they understand this. Seismology is not some home run for the globe. When you actually look underneath the hood, you found out, oh, they have the little visualizations of what time different receivers got it, and they show the epicenter spreading out on the globe. But in reality, what they're actually doing is there's tons of anomalies where places super far away get the signal before places super close, and they make way more sense on a flat Earth. What do? They twist it around, and they say that there are all these different anomalies happening hundreds of miles below the Earth. That way they can change the velocity at which the signal is supposedly going because they're changing the composition. And obviously sound waves go through different densities at different speeds. So they just fudge the compositions, the density and the material composition enough to make it work. So I just wanted to point that out because he would have never let you actually expose that in this debate. Right, he was just screaming like a madman, but I just wanted to give.
Can grow minerals.
Because I think Darryl's about to jump
We'll see.
I wasn't even gonna cover the great unconformity, but that's like another great thing that would have fit in so perfectly. Gosh, now if next time I go, I have another thing to add to my already too long intro. But
yeah, it just ends it all right there, honestly.
Well, yeah, like that, along with like everything is just ad hoc to one another. They invoke the magneto striping across the ocean floor for like a bunch of things, but then when the rubber hits the road with that, and the pole reversals don't actually line up with what they say the magneto striping across the ocean floor is supposed to do, they just throw it out the window and ignore it. But yeah, like it's all just based on a bunch of ad hoc like assumptions. Like everything is independent of each other. A ton of their stuff about the geodynamo is just like squeezed in to what they had to accommodate with all their other crazy assertions about the iron core in the middle, and like Witsit was saying, with like the sedimentary layers for the seismology and stuff. It's crazy how many assumptions they make.
Yeah, the great unconformity, for those who don't know, it's like huge layers that are missing that are supposed to be there in their model, like up to billions of years. And there are areas that have up to like 1.7 billion years missing. Well, they claim the Earth's 4.5 billion years old. And there are areas that are missing almost 2 billion years of layers in their model. So almost half the age of the Earth, they claim, is missing. So there are certain areas that have great unconformities, like the Grand Canyon and many other places. And then there's actually, across the whole world, there are plenty of layers missing that give them a great unconformity as a whole. And then they actually go around and make up claims about what's going on, assuming that a great unconformity somehow doesn't refute their model. It's absolutely a joke. One thing I do want to do, I want to let you guys come up with anything, and you guys tell me what you think about this, but anything else you think that you weren't able to actually fully address or build out because you were being censored so much. And also, I know that Toby didn't get to finish kind of what he wanted to explain with his presentation. So it's up to you if you want to finish your presentation. Obviously, you have the floor to do that. And if either one of you have anything you think wasn't addressed in the debate, you can do that. And then once we do that, or if you guys don't have anything, then we can just open it up to anyone that has comments or moments they remember in the debate, and I can try to find it so we can watch it if you guys want to do that. But there you go. Throw it over to you guys.
I definitely would not mind going through the rest of my presentation.
Let's do that, man. I think we should do that. So cool. I'm going to stop sharing, and then when you're ready, you can share. And then also for everyone else, just keep in mind, say, Alan, I know that we've covered a decent amount of the parts they wouldn't let you get into. Oh, one part I think was super funny we can maybe cover real quick was the great meridian corrections. And what did he say about them? He said they didn't exist. Maybe what we'll do is if we're down to let Toby kind of cover his stuff, then I can write down some timestamps here real quick, and I can find the parts that do just poop the bed. Yeah.
So for the meridian corrections, I didn't really press them too hard because the only reference I have to it is through Marmot's paper. Right, but he does reference that those come from the standards from the international clock synchronization organizations, right? So like it is in their literature. Now I tried to track down the exact documentation, but they change it every year. So finding the publication relative to that year that Marmot referenced, I can't find it. So I only have like what Marmot says about it, but I mean it's literally in their literature. So.
Word.
Oh, Alan, may I just I was thinking about this topic, meridian corrections, and it sort of confused Tony, and that's because, if I might say, meridian correction is not a standard terminology, as you said. It's only in the one paper there, and so I was going to spend some time trying to do what you said, look for the references, but it has to be related to the current GPS terminology. So I think we should, or at least I'm going to try and spend some time doing that.
Yeah, that would be awesome because changing the terminology would impact that.
But it would be meridian convergence. Okay, so what they call it is meridian convergence. So it would be computational corrections to the rate of meridian convergence. Because obviously the meridians converge above and below the equator, right? Well, you have longitude lines. Okay, so for those in the audience, you have the latitude lines. You have a sphere. You have the latitude lines going this way. You have the longitude lines going this way. So that's where you get a meridian line. Obviously, the meridians converge. You have a meridian convergence. If you're doctoring distances, or your signals don't match the distances and you need it to match a specific globe coordinate system with a specific latitude and longitude system, well, you would actually create corrections within the convergence rate between the two. That would be what a meridian correction is. And from my understanding, the official terminology from GPS is meridian convergence. So that would be the first place to start looking to find the meridian corrections, would be like any type of like correction to meridian convergence. Any input here?
Maybe especially in the South, right?
Yeah, that's where we would expect it to be the most drastic, right? Yeah, and that's
Why
what the
did you
evidence
bring that
suggests.
up with when you brought up interferometry? I don't get it. Like, how
I brought up the GPS meridian corrections because at the very beginning they talked about the distances. They were trying to explain to them the longitude, latitude, globe transforms, how you're assuming the distances, you run them through all the GPS, and there are meridian corrections. And I don't even know if they said that, but they just wouldn't let them even talk about it. The very beginning of the debate was the most funny part, in my opinion. I think we should watch that in a second, but I think that Alan's ready. I just want to point out to the audience, if you lied about the Earth, obviously on the globe, it's going to converge down. It's gonna diverge down to the equator, and then it's going to converge back down to the South Pole. On the flat Earth, it's going to keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger as you get out from the central point. So if you were going to lie about it, you lie about the South. If you created a GPS globe coordinate system and you were running it through transforms, running it through corrections, like automatically, you were adjusting for different anisotropic distribution of light. That just means that light has a preferred direction. It goes faster in one direction than the other, which is not what relativity says. It says to be the same every direction, right? And then McToon says it's because mediums are anisotropic. So he's saying it's because the air that the GPS signal travels through has a preferred direction, which is retarded, doesn't address it at all. Like, no, it isn't based on the medium. Doesn't the wind blow in all directions at different altitudes? But why does the signal only have one direction that is preferred? It isn't based on the medium. But all that to say that you could doctor the distances in the South by just making predetermined corrections based on the transform. What that means is if you get a certain signal that gives you a certain distance, and the distance is this big, but the globe says it's this big, well, your system would automatically correct it from this big to this big and just assume that the difference between this and this was an error. That would be a meridian correction. You would never know. No one would ever know. It's that easy to put it in the algorithm, to transform it and create the corrections in the math that you would never know if the distances were off. That's the point that we're making when we bring up meridian corrections.
And that's why I brought up in the debate the thing where Alan actually could explain it better than me, but where they went to actually comb through GPS data for the sake of academic progress, and they found when they went to comb through the data that it was all pre-corrected, so they didn't even have real GPS data to go through.
Yeah,
dun, dun, dun.
1995, Wolf and Pettit. So they went to Colorado to analyze the GPS data right from the servers, and they, to see if there was to see if the speed of light was constant or not, and their entire data set was already Sagnac corrected.
Wow, and so repeat that, yeah.
Yeah, so that's a first order velocity correction to the speed of light. It's basically, that thing that they say is constant, doesn't change, and so it's like they already corrected it, and then so they're Wolf and Pettit were like, hey, great news, guys, speed of light's the same. That was their conclusion, bro. So that's why you read and have your own thoughts and opinions about things, because they're not going to tell you like, oh, hey, by the way, we falsified our entire model. They're not going to do that. So it's just, that's why it's important to look through these things. And they're like, well, what was their conclusion? Well, they literally went to go see if the speed of light was the same. So they went to the speed of light factory, and what they found was that they're correcting it.
Yeah.
Their conclusion was that the corrections didn't matter. It's fine. That's
exactly. Yo, Toby was so funny with that. He was like, do I need to absorb their favorite food and favorite color as well? Like,
that was perfect, dude.
Yeah.
Too funny. Real quick, let everyone shout out their X. So if you look right up there, you'll see my X right here. So it's WitsitGetsIt on X. Go follow me on X. If you don't have X, download it. We need to take it over. Although it probably is somewhat shadow banned and censored, it's way better than any other platform in terms of reach and lack of censorship, the relationship between that. So go create an X account and help become part of the Truther, True Earth Journey or team on X. I think that's important. I'm WitsitGetsIt. Everyone shout out their X handle because I think it's important that we start popping off on X. Just random, but if you don't mind.
Yep. My handle is 100 crypto keys. Follow me on Twitter. Shout out to the boys for Flat Earth Friday. Go follow them.
Yeah, you have 100 crypto keys and Flat Earth Fridays on X. We all go in there Fridays. It can be like 12 hours or more long. That's a space you can go sit in and listen to. That is my boy Sacred. It's 100 crypto keys. And Alan's is Space Audits, correct?
Space_audits.
Space_audits. My boy Shane's X is
Anti-Disinfo 86. It's like my third one, so I had to keep adding numbers.
Anti-Disinfo 86. I should be following all of them. Go follow me. Go to those that I'm following. You should find everyone you need. And then we got my boy Toby, which is
Twitter.
At Toby Earth.
At Toby Earth. And that should be also under the people I'm following. Used to be Twitter, now known as X. Just go follow and help us take over. That's what I think, because if I can get 100,000 impressions on some random moon landing post I make, well, I'm not getting 100,000 views on anything else. So we should take it over. All right, that was random.
Yeah.
What's up?
No, I was gonna say holla at your boy at FlatmanB Twitter.
FlatmanB on X. FlatmanB. All right. And then so we're gonna throw it over to Toby and let him do kind of, because he wasn't able to finish his presentation because globe earthers are like, I Googled today, and then flat earthers are like, yo, let me try to change your whole life and show you how all of physics is bogged down by philosophical confinement and assumptions, and I only have 8 minutes, right? So it's a totally different vibe. Toby feels my pain now. Alan feels my pain now. Trying to fit that in 12 minutes, it's tough, but Toby did a great job. People can pop it down to 0.75. That's how I view it. So you put it out in the ether, you stamped it out there in the Akashic Records. It's there forever. I think you did great. You weren't able to get all the way through it. I want to give you a chance to get through it because you weren't even able to cover the stuff that you did get to in the debate, much less the stuff you didn't. And again, I'm going to throw it back around. If Alan and Toby have points I think that weren't addressed, anyone else on the Discord that have points of the debate that they want to address, keep them in mind, and then we'll go from there. If you want to support and you have any questions or any comments you want the panel to respond to, that's ko-fi.com/Witsit, kofi.com/Witsit. Link is pinned in the YouTube chat and in the description. All right, Toby, you ready, brother?
Yeah, definitely.
All right, bet. Let's do it.
Cool. So yeah, I'll just pick up on the geophysics part. I might repeat a little bit of what I said, but I was rushing through everything so much that this will probably be a lot better. So this is just showing globular plate tectonics, and this is how they say, this is what they say is the cause of all of our earthquakes. This is, they say that this is on a spinning, rotating globe. But if that's the case, there should be a maximum momentum, minimum energy state. And what would that look like? That's what a rotating sphere would have. And the semi-liquid interior should accentuate any lack of uniformity in the rotation, and the continents should actually be drifting outward to align the equator, right? That's what you would expect from that. And they have within their model baked in to all their theories this idea of Pangea and everything having separated from this one singular continent. And if you think about the rotating globe, that would cause like an insane great instability, and you pair that with a semi-liquid interior, and uniform rotation is like almost impossible essentially. Like it's not what the outcome is going to be there, and that's foundational to a bunch of their geophysical assertions of the globe. And then there's magnetogeology. I already touched on this a bit earlier, but we rely on magnetic striping across, or they rely on magnetic striping across the ocean floor. It's a bunch of unsubstantiated assertions relating to events hundreds of millions of years in the past, and the pole reversals of the magnetic field that that they claim over certain periods of time do not actually match the predictions of the things like such as the magnetic striping across the ocean floor. the geodynamo is built, which is the way that they explain our magnetic field within, like on a spherical Earth. That's built on a bunch of assumptions that offer no predictive value. What I mean by that is, for instance, the magnetic field has a drift to it, right? We've been recording the fact that the magnetic field has a drift to it. Well, they can't make any predictions about that drift because they have to use their geodynamo model to make it predictions. And what do you know? It doesn't really work out. And they have convection within that geodynamo model. The way that they say that the magnetic field is generated in the spherical Earth is through these convection currents in the outer core of the Earth, which surround the inner core. You'd have a solid iron interior, which, like I said earlier, they have to have that solid iron interior there because they have to have something to invoke a point-specific gravity to pull everyone from the outside of the globe inwards with a uniformity, right? But it's much more easily explained with just a downward bias. But yeah, so those convection currents. What I mean by convection current is that it's think of like a whirlpool of liquid magma outside of the inner core, and as those whirlpools are spinning, that's generating static electricity that then generates a magnetic field. And the way that those spin, that alignment is not actually aligned with the rotation of the Earth. So if we look here, this would be Earth's rotational axis, and then this is the axis of the convection currents. And that's what I mean by being ad hoc. It's just they have to invoke something to explain it that doesn't actually, right. They're making assertions about something inside of the Earth, and it's based on, it's what's up?
How much is that magnetic axis off? Does that win? Dude, is that in alignment with the CMB, bro? Like, dude, did they literally do it again?
I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start keeping a push-up tab as well, and I'm going to start dinging each person. And I want my push-ups. No. I just thought about it. I heard a temptation. Yeah. Anyway.
But yeah, I don't know. I can pull it up after.
Yeah, we'll have to check that out because I
can't
recall.
What are they talking about with magnetic striping on the ocean floor? What are they?
Yeah, I should have had some visuals for that or something. Basically, there's like these lines of like these. There's like across the ocean floor. So I'll give you the globe steel, man. Where the magma comes out at the center of the rifts or whatever. They claim that has built the ocean floor over the years, and then as the pole reversals happened, it changes the way that magma hardens essentially, and so it gives like a striping effect. And they say that every time that the stripe changes, that predicts a pole reversal happened in the magnetic field however many millions of years ago, that are based on their assumptions about the magma having always come out at that same rate, and it just
I get why you say unsubstantiated assertions now. Okay.
Yeah. Thanks for the question. I kind of rushed through this part of the presentation, honestly, towards putting it together. So yeah, then I brought this up because I was just honestly wanted to hear what Tony was going to have to say about it. The P and S wave shadow zones, because I know he likes to kind of tout it as a flat Earth proof. But the S wave shadow zones, that just looks like it would be the flat Earth prediction, really. And then the P wave shadow zones, it could be explained by a lot of new phenomena on a flat Earth, and they rely on I was saying here, the incremental layering models that can't be substantiated or falsified. And by incremental layering models, what I mean by that was that paper I had brought up earlier, and I don't actually have it in the presentation, but that I brought up during the debate. All right, yeah, I did bring it up during the debate. So, but yeah, I just mean the fact that they compute through each layer separately. So it's just, you could make anything work essentially with that. And then I had through in this Sir Karl Popper quote. He's a famous philosopher, and he says, "Insofar as a scientific statement speaks about reality, it must be falsifiable, and insofar it is not falsifiable, it does not speak about reality." And then I have this picture here with their waves just crisscrossing each other, going through, going through. So there, just to clarify on what this is here, these are what they call shadow zones. So they say that we have, when an earthquake happens, you have the waves that go straight out, right? And these don't actually go through the core of the earth, they say. And then you have the P waves, these were the P waves, and then the S waves that are like doing this outwards, and those have nothing gets felt on the opposite side of the earth with the P waves, but with the S waves, it comes through. There's they claim to have measurements that are perfectly in alignment with this area here, and then these shadow zones. And then they say that that's evidence of the liquid outer core causing these shadow zones, or the relationship of the inner core with the liquid outer core, essentially. So it's a pretty big stretch for something that we can get nowhere close to actually measuring.
So it's just baloney tits. Just ridiculous.
So then I have seismic anomalies, and so I was just going to go here. I just wanted to discuss the fact that they don't even really understand earthquakes. The position of the moon in its orbit is primarily. This was a old Soviet paper, and they say the position of the moon in its orbit is primarily related to the seismicity of the American continent, which released more than 82% of the global earthquake energy of a magnitude more than 8.4 during the northern lunar declination. And this is not something just covered by the Soviets. I saw a couple other papers about this. It seems they see, especially when the moon is involved, the higher magnitude earthquakes happen in relation with lunar motion. And so then here's another one, though, talking about how space weather and earthquakes, possible triggering of seismic activity by strong solar flares, possible triggering. And they talk here about how there's a new fundamental knowledge is needed on the mechanisms of interaction of the electromagnetic field with rocks, as well as on the influence of the electric/electromagnetic fields in combination with natural geophysical fields on deformation processes in the fault with specific parameters, electrical conductivity, orientation, and maturity for earthquake occurrence. And then I got into this paper already. I did thankfully was able to get into this during the debate. And I also got to talk about it again here, so I won't go over it again. But I will stop here just because I thought this was just hilarious, right? Like, the code of the it's really clear here that they're talking about Cartesian 2D, spherical 3D, and the one stage, which is the same as the one stage, is talking about the 2D. The one stage delivers the same solution accuracy under less CPU time than the regular SPM approach. Generally, it is 1 order of magnitude faster. So I don't know. Then, yeah, it's just very detached from reality, no matter how you slice it. And I already talked about Newton's shell theorem as well. Yeah. So this is, of course, better explained with a uniform downward bias. We don't have to have point-specific gravity in our model. That would actually, it's so much easier to explain in our model. It would align with the downward electrical current from the atmos, which is objectively measured. And this is why the voltage gradient lines across the Earth are parallel to each other and perpendicular to the ground. They are not oriented as concentric spheres. And then I wanted to close out on Apollo 17. Just to be fair, offer my favorite space proof, the one thing that leaves me on the fence. And we have this here. So I don't know. I don't know how they would have got these pictures if they didn't actually go to the moon. And that's all.
Damn, bro. That's a good point. That's a good point, bro. Nice, bro. Very well. I hate you didn't have time to do it, but to be fair, what I think is that flat earthers should get 3 seconds for every 1 second the Glober gets. So
right.
I may be a little biased.
We have to undo, like, we're up against literally 18 years or whatever of pure indoctrination.
So you guys, okay, I'm going to try to make it where you can see this. Let me come to my OBS. So now you guys can see my OBS. I'll go for full screen and I'll pop this image up. Alan, you weren't able to kind of cover this. He said that you were just clipping it, which means you're cherry picking it. So I'm going to keep this image here, but what I'm going to do is actually go to the portion of the debate to give you a bit of a refresh as to where that was. And I want you to be able to cover it. And you may already know.
The GPS. Yeah. So it was I forget what we were talking about. Oh, the atomic clock corrections, right?
Yeah,
so,
let me play it for the audience. Let me play it for the audience.
Oh, okay.
That's cool with you?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, let me go 156. And again, if anyone has a point, when I have like 5 different timestamps, if anyone has a moment that they want to talk about or any point they want to talk about, just jump in and say it. But yeah, shout out to Toby right there, and just play back the stream, take screenshots and stuff with the information he just gave you. I think it was important. All right, let me come and share the. I need a. Do they do that? Is it possible that someone else can control my OBS while I stream, and I can do it at the same time? Does anyone know?
Negative, Ghost Rider.
Man, that would be lit. Because I can't help but talk. I'm like, let me go share. Okay, so anyway, Discord should be seeing the stream.
Well, I mean, you could do it with remote assist. You'd have to.
But we could both control it at the same time?
Yeah.
Each other.
Oh, that would be cool. Okay, anyway, here is the stream so everyone can hear it and play it. Let's play this for a few seconds just so we know, because bro ran away from this by just basically claiming Alan was cherry picking because he took screenshots from papers, because he's not retarded and knows you can't just go through dozens of pages of papers live. But
dude, that's what I'm saying, bro. Like, it was like I have clips of it. We can go through it and then you could look at it later. He's like, no, we want to do it in real. Like, dude, what the hell are you talking
because
about?
Because they know it's like impossible to like on the fly go through exactly what you want, right, and find the exact points off of memory. It's just all tactics, but.
Oh, yeah, and I actually had it. So, yeah, it would have put a damper on the whole situation.
Well, because that would require them to actually rebut the argument. I mean, you got to understand their whole point is like avoid the argument.
It's to not even get to the argument. Yeah. Yep. I'm starting to see that now because I thought, like, just like lack of experience, I guess, but I was just like, dude, do I commit to like engaging with this guy for another 3 minutes on a point that's not going to go anywhere?
Well, that's the thing about it, man. You got to find for one, always remember it's for the audience, right? But like you start to learn like, oh, everything they do comes from this motivational standpoint of like being deceptive and not being a complete jackass. It's hard to understand that at first, right? Like you don't realize that they're just lying.
Yeah, dude, I'm literally like, okay, get your whole point out. Go ahead. And then like, let me go. Dude, and then they just don't let you. It's so crazy.
Yeah, it's something that takes some getting used to, but I will say there are people that notice it, bro. I get a lot of emails. This is what keeps me doing MDD. So there are people that noticed tonight that you guys were just there in good faith. They were there in bad faith, that they were scared. You were just like, say everything you got to say, So let's listen to a couple seconds of this, and so we can kind of get a refresh for the audience as to what happened.
Let's carry on there, guys, because we're a little over time on that question. And when I'm doing housekeeping, don't interrupt me. My goodness, you'll throw off my groove.
Oh,
you don't want to throw off
said it.
Yeah, I almost cursed.
Unconditional truth says, can Toby and or Alan explain how GPS falsifies relativity and therefore heliocentrism in general? Doesn't the current globe model require
heliocentrism
relativity? We'll give you guys a minute and 30 there.
He's great.
Great moderator. A minute and 30.
Atomic clock synchronization, the way that it actually works, falsifies special relativity, because the way that the atomic clocks are situated in free fall around the Earth, they shouldn't be retarding proportional to their own velocity. So not even not counting keeping the clock in sync with other clocks, just maintaining the oscillation rate of the atomic clock itself. It has to account for its own velocity, which they say, it's in a free fall orbit, therefore it's a local inertial frame. So, the speed of light should be the same. It shouldn't, especially the one-way speed, it shouldn't change. So its own velocity should not cause any retardation in the oscillation rate so that it can keep time. Now, what's interesting about that is that, okay, so it's free falling around Earth.
I would just like to make an observation. They have no idea what you just said. Okay, let's continue.
It's got a proportional velocity correction that it has to make for its own velocity, right? But as it's free falling around the Earth, it would be parallel and perpendicular to the planes of motion. Like, so the orbit of the Earth around the sun with respect to the center of the galaxy moving with respect to the cosmic microwave background. All these velocity components never show up in any of the clock corrections. So if the atomic clocks and GPS are proof of anything, it's that the Earth is geocentric.
Okay,
let me help everyone understand what he's saying. Based on how fast the atomic clock moves, and if you don't know, they use what people call cesium atoms. They degrade at a certain rate. They have what's called a decay rate, right? They degrade at a certain rate. They
Let
help
me screen share while you break this down. I have visuals to go along with everything you're saying.
Perfect. Yeah, do it. I'll stop streaming. So they have the atomic clocks use what people call cesium atoms. Okay, and they take the degradation rate, the decay rate of the atom, and that's how they get time, right? And they oscillate, and they do a certain amount of oscillations per what we call a second, and they actually use those to let you know how much time has surpassed. What we've discovered is that based on how fast that clock is going, and there you go. There's the visualizations of it. It's a bit complicated because they use magnetic fields. They run them through magnetic fields. They introduce them to radio wave frequencies. They tune them with very specific frequencies. Whenever the oscillation rate of the quote unquote atom isn't the right one, well, they just the microwaves are automatically updating it to where they need to be, and they're running them through magnetic fields. So they're reversing spins. They're changing the frequencies based on radio waves to keep it based on what it's supposed to be. Right? And it's an incredible technology. I'm not hating on it. It self-corrects, but it's actually pretty awesome, right? Like they use microwaves, which is of course electromagnetic frequencies. They use magnetic fields, which tomato, tomato, if you truly understand it, you have the dielectric, the magnetic conjugate geometric expression, word salad. So the point that I'm making is that's how they actually determine the time. It has I don't remember, millions of clicks per second. So what we've discovered is that based on how fast these clocks go, right, it changes the duration of the signal. So if you have GPS, it's sending a signal and it has a clock on there that's keeping a certain amount of time in what they call satellites, right? Well, based on how fast it goes.
Oscillation rate.
Say again?
Changes the oscillation rate, essentially.
There you go. Exactly.
So you can kind of think of it so they say the oscillation rate of cesium is 9,192,000,000. So when they talk about having an atomic clock synchronization, they're effectively breaking a second down to 9,192,000,000ths of a second, right? So what they found, though, is that the motion, what's carrying this atomic clock, right, it retards that oscillation rate proportional to the velocity. So say it's going, 10,000 miles an hour, right? Instead of oscillating at 9,192,000, it would only be 9,182,000, right?
Exactly.
Direct proportional relationship. And it's what? That's not supposed to happen.
Right? So what they call the atom is vibrating at a certain rate, and what they found is that atom is in a clock that's moving, and based on the speed that it's moving, then it actually changes the amount of oscillations. It's retardation. So it becomes a glober. So what happens is it slows down. So it slows down relative to its velocity. There should be no relationship with the velocity. According to relativity, it should remain constant. Right?
Yep, 100%. That's actually how Einstein clock synchronization, that's how they thought how they would sync these clocks to get the GPS system off the ground. It was based off of that constant oscillation rate not being affected while it's in quote unquote free fall, right? While it's in a local inertial frame, the same kind of situation that they say that we explicitly can't measure with interferometry, but yet the humble atomic clock measures it just fine.
Exactly. So the point that Alan just made where we paused it was knowing that's objectively the case. If you invoke GPS or satellites for anything, then you have to concede this. Whether you get into, they don't really exist, or kind of what I think most of us would agree on is there are things, they use the ether wind, right? Electrogravitic propulsion or just the ether wind. There are seemingly things that do move over top of the Earth. They're in ellipses. They transform to a globe. They assume the Earth is stationary. They pretend that it's not, and it has c plus v, and it has change in velocity, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, exactly. So you have the transform right there. I think there are things up there. I think Toby and Alan agree with me. But before we even get into that, the point that Alan's making is, the atomic clocks, right? The actual manuals, the evidence, the signals, the interpretation, the distances, everything that they use shows that you have to account for how fast the clock is moving. That oscillation rate changed based on how fast it moves. Well, in an etheric framework, understand that the Earth is a stationary lab frame, that there's an ether, there's a drift, that everything moves within that electromagnetic propagation is nothing more than really an oscillation or disturbance of that. right? Long story short, not to get lost in the weeds here, we expect that to happen. We expect the oscillation rate to change based on velocity, which is common sense. It's common sense. The light's going to go a different speed in the medium if it's water. We're going to go a different speed if we move a different speed through the water, right? The signal will change. That's what we expect. That's what common sense expects. That's what ether expects. That's what a stationary Earth expects. That's not what the pseudoscientific, psychopathic, heliocentric model where they invert everything and claim that everything's relativistic expects, though. That's not what should happen. That is what happens. The point that Alan just made, right where we paused it, is that being the case and it needing to account for the velocity at which the clock moves, right, would mean you need to account for the fact that the Earth is supposedly orbiting the sun at 66,000 miles per hour while the sun drags the Earth with it 500,000 miles per hour through our galaxy, allegedly, where the galaxy goes 1.2 million miles per hour. You would have to account for those different motions if that was actually happening, because we know you have to account for just the velocity it's moving on the Earth. So you have to, it's a proportionate velocity relationship. That means it happens in relation to how fast you're going. That means you'd have to account for all these other things. Since they don't have to account for this assumed orbit, this assumed motion of the galaxy, and this assumed motion of the universe, that would actually be proof that we're not doing those things. That's as simple as I can say it, but Alan, what do you want to say about it?
Yeah, so that's extremely important. And the way that I was kind of talking about it earlier, well, in the debate, what's his name? Tony offered up the refutation. Well, if the whole system is moving together, you wouldn't measure that. But the way that they break down motion, right, is that it's all relative to something else. So the way that it would work, right, in their relativistic, all relative motion paradigm, all of these velocities would be broken into separate components. So when I was talking about being parallel and perpendicular to the planes of motion, right, this is how it's being described in these academic papers to explain it, because it's going through that relative paradigm, right? So it's like the explanation he put forward isn't even like, it's not the issue, right? So anyway, yeah, so as the satellite is free falling around the Earth, at some points it's going to be parallel and perpendicular to the plane of motion where the sun is rotating or moving around the sun, the Earth is around the sun, and then there's also going to be points where it's parallel and perpendicular to the Earth moving with respect to the center of the galaxy, right? And same with the with respect to the CMB as well, right? So there's different quote unquote planes of motion, right? When I was talking about Galilean velocity addition earlier, or in the thing, and he was like, well, that's not relativity, blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, it's how you break down the with respect to velocity components, my dude. So what do you say you do here? But anyway, it's like anything you can get to try and get like a refutation in or whatever. Like I get it, but that's not sufficient to explain the issue here. And other people that work in GPS have noticed this throughout their career. And they write about it, and they even try to explain it through the paradigm. Let's see, this guy tried to say, hey, maybe Earth's gravitational field is like holding a localized ether, with us. And that's why we can't experience any of these other motions. It's like these people are seeing the problem, right? But they're not like, there's nowhere to address it in mainstream because like nobody's trying to, bring that up, right? It's better if you assume the Earth's velocity than trying to measure it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And let's address the elephant in the room. One side's like, bro, this is so overcomplicated, water lays flat. And we're like, no, dude, we're the cutting edge. It's up to us to figure out what's actually going on. We're the only ones that are going to do it. Let's get into the technical scientific analysis and figure out what's going on. The other side's like, holy snap. Yeah, that's right. You got to be lame not to cuss if it makes you cool. You didn't know. So like these people can't know what they're talking about because they're way too specific with their analysis. They must be just trying to lie, say big words to deceive you and take your money. Oh yeah, the people that make no money are trying to take your money by coming up with specific presentations with tons of papers and highlights that don't mean anything. That's just to understand. That's why you hear them respond with that, because this is such an overwhelming technical analysis that has such substantive specificity that just destroys the opposition that they have to just dismiss it entirely, because to rebut it requires understanding it and doing research, and it takes time and understanding. And if what we're saying is true, it's very damning. So they just avoid it, while many people are like, this is too technical for me. Well, I mean, join the club, bro. Like this is the cutting edge of things. So that was more of a meta point, but I wanted to make that point. So, and this is where he has some meridian corrections. So to point out, this is the gravity. By the way, gravity is not a bad word. It means gravitas, which means weight, heavy, specifically how heavy something is, right? Gravitation is what you have a problem with, but the gravity of this, the implications of this is so significant. That's what Alan was trying to explain to them, talking to them as if they're at a level 10. But bro, they were at a level 2. I mean, that's being generous, right? And so where I paused this video, and look, I'm going to go back to Alan, keep your screen share. We're going to go back to make sure once you hear what you hear that you can kind of drive some stuff home. Where I paused Alan in this stream here, that's what he had just explained. Is like, oh, well, based on the velocity of the clock, they have to adjust for it. They'd have to adjust for these other velocities that your model claims that the Earth is doing, and they don't. So actually, the efficacy of this GPS would prove the Earth's not doing those things. That's what he just explained. But he explained it in such a way that either A, you already have prior knowledge regarding the subject, or B, you'd have to have good faith and be like, wait, what does that mean? What do you mean by that, right? Of course, neither one of those things are the case. So they're going to say, let's see what they say. Let's see what they say. Because I actually don't remember, but I know it was probably just ridiculous. So let's check it out.
Yeah, put your stream back up so I can do that.
Yeah, my bad. So okay, we'll switch screens and then I'll pop Alan's back up if he has something else he wants to say. So I think that this is it. You guys let me know if it's not playing because I have a few YouTubes pulled up, but I think it's the right one.
30 seconds left there, Toby.
Can he provide a single scientific
30 seconds left there, Toby. Okay, Tony. Yeah. Like, what the hell? Dude, I'm like, dude, someone should make a clip of just Toby's facial reactions and expressions. It's so funny, bro.
Atomic clocks and GPS are proof of anything. It's that the Earth is geocentric.
Okay, you got 30 seconds left there, Toby.
Can he provide a single scientific reference for what he just said?
Yo, Toby's face, bro. I gotta bring it back. You can't hear it? You can't hear it?
I can't hear the stream.
Can everyone else hear it?
Oh, you guys can hear it? Okay, that's weird.
Yeah, click on the screen. Make sure you got the volume turned up. Yeah,
just like, why are you talking?
Toby's like, what the hell, bro? It's so funny.
Geocentric.
Okay, you got 30 seconds.
Let me bring it back too. So,
like, so the orbit of the Earth around the sun with respect to the center of the galaxy moving with respect to the cosmic microwave background. All these velocity components never show up in any of the clock corrections. So if the atomic clocks and GPS are proof of anything, it's that the Earth is geocentric.
Okay, you got 30 seconds left there, Toby.
Can he provide a single scientific reference for what he just said?
Yeah, Paul Marmé.
Toby's like, what the hell? All right, and so he said, can he bring up a single scientific evidence? Okay, reference. All right. Just remember that's what he asked for. He interrupted Toby. Toby had 30 seconds left. Ryan didn't step in and pretend he had some cojones and say, hey, I said he has 30 seconds left, Tony. Can you shut up? Right? He let him hijack the conversation, remove Toby's time. Now let's see what happens.
In all atomic clock synchronization standards.
This is their question, Tony.
Bring it up.
So the
live right now. Okay.
The last 38 seconds. Okay, we'll go.
Ryan's like the guy that like he just like, oh, my girlfriend's sleeping with someone else right in front of me, but okay, it's fair. But so he says, I shouldn't have said that, but so he says, Toby has 30 seconds. He cuts him off, and then he starts saying, oh, you don't have any scientific references for any of that, and he says like all GPS manuals, and then he said, bring it up. Okay, so Alan says right now. Okay, I know it's sad I have to do this, but like just to make sure everyone understands what's going on because it was so frustrating to watch.
Jesus Christ, dude.
We'll go down there, but last 38 seconds to you, Toby. Before we bring that up, apparently we're coming full circle. So go ahead.
Yeah, so the whole thing goes back to measuring the motion of the Earth, right? We tried to measure the motion of the Earth using interferometry, which is the quote unquote speed of light or electromagnetic propagation. And then when we didn't measure any motion, they said, oh, well, that's because of relativity. The apparatus shrunk in relation to the sun, and you couldn't actually measure it. Well, and they say that the speed of light is constant, so that's why you could never even measure a proportional velocity using the speed of light. But it turns out when you look under the hood of GPS and range measurement equations, that whole equation accounts for proportional velocity in it. So the equation itself violates and basically debunks special relativity. We've known about this since the 90s with Ron Hatch. Yeah.
All right, let's go down the rabbit hole, fellas.
All right. Well, so
I mean, like, if people are actually following, that's why I love this debate, because, bro, the replay value is epic. You guys got the information out there, even though it may not have like been able to land live. But anyway, let's keep going.
We'll start off here with.
Is this a paper? Are
Yes,
you showing me a scientific paper?
Yes, these are clips of papers that I put into
These
a
are clips
presentation.
that show me the paper.
You want the? Oh Jesus!
What is wrong with this guy? Show me the paper.
Christ, dude, you want the exact ones? Each one.
Yes, I want the exact paper.
Listen, okay, dude. Here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna show you.
And also, I want you to show me where in that paper.
This is so Alan, dude. I'm impressed you kept your cool as much as you did. Like, he's just trying to bully you and find a way that you're not able to present the information. Does everyone realize that's all that's happening? Yeah, I mean, that's all that's happening. It's not complicated.
Paper, it says this disproves special relativity. Because
Okay, so he makes a specific point about how if it's proof of anything, it's geocentrism because it has to account for the velocity of the atomic clock, but based on the velocities assumed in the model, then there would be multiple velocities that would affect the actual oscillation rate of the atomic clock. So since those are not accounted for, those don't have an effect, those don't actually exist. If the GPS and atomic clocks is proof of anything, it's a geocentric model. And then he says, do you have a scientific paper for any of that? He then brings up the paper, and now he moves the goalpost to say Alan needs to find a paper that says it disproves relativity specifically in those exact words. It's all tactics.
Funny he mentioned that though too. Like Paul Marmot essentially says that. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he does literally say that. Yeah, pretty much. But it's just the point that you see it's a tactic. He's like, he thinks in his mind, there's no paper that's going to say that it debunks relativity. So now I know I'm way in over my head. I can't address the atomic clocks and the C plus V and the stuff you're about to show. You have the actual citations ready. So he moves the goalpost to, no, you're supposed to be showing a paper that says that relativity is debunked. No, that's not what he's supposed to be showing. He's supposed to be showing a paper that supports the actual C plus V relative to the velocity the atomic clock moves, because you denied that and asked for a paper. Then he's like, oh, damn, they have the papers ready. Oh, well, it just clips, and no, you need to say exactly what your conclusion was. That's not how debates work. So I just want to point out the tactics that this dude's using. And I actually do feel bad for this guy, though.
Because what you're doing is you're cherry picking stuff out of papers and you're saying, this means that special relativity isn't true.
Ryan, can you mute him so I can
That's
look at this?
not how science works.
All right, we will let you respond there, Alan, and let's try to keep the discourse.
Bro, how is this dude not like a cartoon? Like, am I the only one that thinks it's like a movie? How insane this guy is? Like, bro,
Seriously.
everyone just watch him right here. Watch his facial expressions and his demeanor and stuff. I think it's so funny.
Saying, this means that special relativity isn't true.
Ryan, can you mute him so I can look at
That's
this?
not how science works.
All right, we will let you respond there, Alan, and let's try to
Bro,
keep
he
the
did my screen share. Bro, I didn't even see that because I thought I was presenting when I was going over that, and he's like, "Oh, did you think you were screen sharing?"
Yeah, and he removed it.
Come on, Ryan. Come on, Ryan.
Yeah.
Jeez,
Oppo, you're
dude.
not
So this
down
is
here,
how we're
guys.
gonna.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, that's crazy now that you point out that he removed it. This guy just starts screaming and he gets this way. Like, what is wrong with you people? We can watch a little bit more of it.
Do this so we can move through this quickly. Now, I'll give you all the citations so you could look them up on your own time. But for the audience's sake, what we're going to do is we're going to look through clips of these. If you want to call it cherry picking and all that, that's cool. Totally fine with it. You can go back and read it on your own time.
Wow.
So this is paper from 2000.
Yeah, they didn't even show it. They didn't even show it.
That's so crazy that's because what Ryan did. That was because of bad moderation that the audience doesn't get to see what Alan's showing the audience.
Exactly.
On purpose,
Ugh.
not by accident, right? Not like, oh, oops, I didn't mean to.
Yep. And we can have a conversation with James. Like, don't write off MDD, dude. 180,000 subs, bro. We should all
I'll say this, bro. I specifically said I didn't want you have Ryan as a moderator. James emailed me back and was like, "Hey, you want to do a debate where Ryan's the moderator?" Now, is it my fault for accepting? Sure. But Come on, man. How is there no other moderator?
This is what I suggest. We can like make sure I see it before you send it. I'll even help you write it. But like, you guys should send an email to him. I've kind of like started talking to him when he messages me back. He texts me back. I'll say something. But like, I would say explain it, right? Like explain like, bro, like I appreciate the opportunity to come on here, blah blah blah. But like, here are some of the issues, right? And just kind of explain it. We can go through it where James can read it and be like, oh, well, these people aren't just like, they're just being sincere. They're like, I don't feel like it's fair. You know what I'm saying? That's what that's my suggestion.
Yeah. Gonna have to.
Yeah. Maybe we find like a flat earther that would be a good moderator, and I introduce him to James and he can consistently moderate on here.
Yeah. Shane or Jared.
Anyone that is willing to do it, Jared's not going to want to do it, but like, I don't know if they get paid or what goes on here.
Anyway.
Can I do it selectively for the crew?
No, you got to be fair. You got to be fair, obviously. Can't stoop to their levels. But like, oh man, I thought you were sharing.
Yeah, like do shit like that. I can make it seem much more believable than he did, to be honest.
Yeah, but you don't.
Dude,
don't
that's
be
so crazy. I didn't know that he did that, man. I thought I was still sharing.
Yeah, so you know that since you weren't sharing and you were just saying it, they could not follow it. And I mean this. I'm not trying to be ugly. Not everyone can hear information audibly quickly and retain it.
Dude, and this is super dense material. That's why I put together clips and presentations and stuff. Like
exactly,
because you can't just rattle off like, oh yeah, the old atomic clock. Well, you got your cesium oven and you got your magnetic field. Then you got your radio cat. Like, what the hell are you talking about, right? But you can only get there if you've seen it and walked through it. So like that's why I was trying to do that, and yeah, he shut that down. That's a real shame.
And yo, everyone in the chat, go smash the like. By the way, I have the let me come on the camera real quick. I have the extension that shows me the dislikes, and the Globers are showing out and putting you guys to shame and smashing the dislike button, and you guys aren't going and smashing the like. So we're just gonna sit here and you're gonna look at me with my sunburn.
Did you know that your sunburn disproves the flat Earth sun or something? I think I saw a meme that says that.
Yeah, there was an X post that had a picture of me with a sunburn and said, when you don't know that you accidentally disprove flat Earth by getting a sunburn.
Right. Yeah, I didn't get it,
Dude,
but I saw it.
That's what's up. I love those kind of memes, like the ones that are so bad that make no sense.
Yo, Globers cannot meme, bro. They have
you clearly say that. Yeah, that's why
it's like, bro, you tried your best. I respect it. You know.
Yeah. Will you guys go smash the like, or we're just gonna sit here in awkward silence? Hey, help me! Don't say anything for a second. We'll just sit here forever. If you guys like, bro, go smash the like button, and we're just gonna sit here. All right. It gets them every time. All right, let's come back over. Thank you guys who smashed the like, but like it helps with the algorithms as much as we can. All right, let's watch a little bit more and then we'll move on.
5, the interpretation of special relativity applied to the local central inertial frame, blah, 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 right? So what he's going through here is he's talking about how there's these different planes of motions that would show up in the atomic clock corrections if they existed, right? So what we have here are some diagrams that he puts forward. So as the satellites are orbiting around that nobody can see, parallel and perpendicular to these planes of motion. So that would require, if you follow Galilean velocity addition, this is what this guy's saying, like, oh, you're just making shit up. This is what he's saying, that these velocity corrections would have to be applied to the atomic clock for it to keep time, but they don't exist. They've never been measured in interference.
That's spurious nonsense.
He's got 10 seconds
please,
left.
Before you shit the bed, bro. Just give me 1 second.
You got 10 seconds.
So here we have more GPS references. This is other people noticing in their careers that, hey, how come none of these atomic clocks have to account for this 30-kilometer velocity or anything like that? Okay.
And you see how he's explained with the visuals, like the planes of motion. People need a visualization for things like planes of motion. They have no idea what you're saying, right? And he removed it. But we just went through it. You see how he's making a very substantive, specific, intelligent, knowledgeable, well-researched and founded, well-articulated point that's far over these people's heads. This guy has a PhD. Okay, that proves college is retarded, right? Like that proves our point, right? Because like we're not just saying words. Alan isn't just saying things. And we just went through exactly what he's saying here. Alan is hitting him with the work. He's not ready for that work, right? He got crossed up, fell to his knees, broke his ankles. Alan went in for the dunk. He came behind him, tried to tackle him. Dude still made the dunk. It's an and one. And then Globers in the chat said, ha, 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 Alan sucks at basketball. It's like, does he? Okay. I'm starting a poll. Who won the debate? Toby and Alan, Tony and Darryl. So please participate in the poll. I think the answer is overwhelmingly obvious, but just participate, please. We got 546, so I'm expecting at least 500 people to participate. Takes just a couple seconds. Click on the two. All right, cool. So I'll play a couple more seconds, then we'll move on from this point.
Now, if you want all these references, I will gladly give them to you. Okay.
Okay.
There's
You aren't
more- there's
screen
more-
sharing.
we're
I get to
we're
respond
trying
now?
to move on.
For sure.
Look at Ryan, bro. He's like,
you're
not screen sharing.
by
For
the way.
fuck's sake, no. I thought I was screen sharing the whole time. My bad.
Oh,
So just to respond.
You're mad,
to,
Alan.
But he did it.
that, just to respond
I had no
to
idea.
that.
Yeah.
Let's hear what his response is.
Those velocities should only show up in the clock correction if Earth is not sharing them, or they're not sharing those motions with one another. If the entire system is moving with that velocity, there's no way that that they can detect that velocity.
So it's a concession. He just conceded, right?
Would be a violation.
Well, there
of
would
the
at
very
least be a 700 kilometer a second velocity. Like if it was all bundled together with respect to the CMB, they would at least have that, but they don't.
Yeah, he just conceded, right? Like
they can detect that velocity. That would be a violation of the very fundamentals of relativity. You can't detect your velocity just by looking inside the system.
Okay, so you get it. So he understands it. That's why we need a full-time guy that understands the physics to make the clips. Alan was making the very point. Toby and Alan are making the point that this refutes relativity based on the actual GPS manuals, the actual corrections that are literally required in real life. And he responds with, that can't be true because it would mean relativity's wrong. Okay, I'm glad we agree. So you get what's happening here.
That reminds me, didn't Tony make the statement? He's like, well, you're wrong because what you said was wrong there. So everything that follows is wrong, so I can't listen to you. So because you believe the Earth's flat, everything you say is wrong.
He just now literally conceded their point, though. That's all I'm saying.
Right.
And as for Galilean addition of reference frames, that's not how relativity works either. So you're claiming to falsify relativity by completely ignoring relativity.
You heard a trigger word.
What relativity is. Again,
this dude has no idea what Galilean reference frames are.
This gets back to you need to be qualified to read and understand a scientific paper. If you aren't, you're going to take stuff that's mentioned in a paper and you're going to be wrong about it. And it baffles me that you don't accept that this is the case.
Okay, he's got nothing. That was just nothing. That's called sophistry, the use of fallacious arguments with the intention to deceive the audience. So, do you have any closing remarks on that subject? You did get to kind of give the presentation. Do you have anything else you want to kind of explain about how that dude's just retarded?
No, I mean, that's pretty much it, man. Like I got to show the visuals with it, the second time around. So that's pretty much it.
All right, cool. Let's come over here. Let's see what I got here. And again,
yeah, he gets it, right? Like there shouldn't be any velocity correction as this thing's free falling around the Earth, but yet, it is.
Exactly. All right, let's check this out.
I did a demo earlier today and I got the file. I'm going to put it into my OBS right quick.
Okay, so what is he talking about? Like just to point out the moderation here. And I feel bad for the guy. Ryan's not terrible or whatever, but
laughing, even though they're not supposed to be up because it's 11 o'clock in Nova Scotia. So.
Oh yeah, he's talking about his kids for some reason.
After this, after we close out, they're supposed to be sleeping. WitsitGetsIt says, "Why do you think you just get to scream over them?" Well, Witsit, I don't think I've been that loud. I haven't been screaming over anybody.
So he just covers for the guy that's been literally screaming.
If you want to hear me scream, you know what? I did a demo earlier today and I got the
No one cares.
File. I'm going to put it into my OBS right quick. You want to hear me scream?
We don't.
Here you go. We wrote a song about hubris.
Respectfully, we don't care, bro.
Yeah, like you guys can't tell from like my face, but in my mind, I'm screaming, "Shut the, shut up, Brian!
Shut up!"
Over here. Go back to my smirk right there. The reason I'm smirking is because I'm thinking about how angry you and Shane are at him talking about his emo music.
Dude, in here I was literally screeching at these poor people. So I'm sorry again.
All right, I think there's a question that's following up.
My OBS right quick. You want to hear me scream? Here you go. We wrote a song about hubris, and it's called Greed. So I'm just going to pop into my OBS, and you can hear the demo that I recorded today. You want to hear somebody screaming. All right, Earth is Life asks, Toby, so when flat earthers make videos claiming
we had to wait for all that,
like Canagoo, laser tests, etc., what do they use to measure the distance?
Okay, so I want to point out. So what he's saying is, he's like, oh, you guys are challenging the distances, right? This is how his brain works. You guys are challenging the distances. Well, then what do you guys use to determine the distances where you claim you have flat Earth observations? That's what he's saying.
Yep. I caught that. And that's actually specifically why I didn't include flat Earth observations in my openers, because I thought that I knew they would conflate it.
Okay, we use plane survey measurements on the local scale to know local measurements. When you then stitch them together in an overarching model, right? That's when you're going to start adding all kinds of corrections to it. So when you talk about like, oh, I saw this from 20 miles away, 30 miles away, this mountain's 45 miles away. Like we're using plane survey measurements that gave us the localized data. What they do is they throw them into transforms and they make like overarching corrections. So it's just like what they do with space-time. So whenever they create the math for space-time, right? So what they do is they use like infinitesimally small, like flat squares, and then they stitch them all together in space and apply an overall curvature of space-time. They do the same thing to the Earth, right? They take tons of different plane survey measurements that are accurate, that are flat, stitch them together, and they're like, okay, well, this is 100 miles, it should be this much curvature. Now, when you get in the GPS, it just gets grosser than that, right? They take all these supposed measurements and distances, they get the signals, and they make the transforms and corrections, they run them through the longitude system. That's how it works. So, like, localized plane survey distances still can be accurate and exist, and we can still invoke them to determine exactly how far we're seeing on the Earth without at the same time invoking their overarching like belief in a globe correction. Does that make sense? So when he asks like, what do you use to get the distances? Like plane survey measurements.
Yeah, no, I figured that's what he meant.
Yeah. And then you did a good job of explaining like how we actually see and stuff like that. All right, let me come over here. 226. All right, let's check this out. I don't know what this is.
Too complicated for us to look at. So yeah.
All right. WitsitGetsIt. I don't know what your interactions have been with WitsitGetsIt, Tony, but he has accused you of interrupting the entire debate, and he's asking you why. Did you want to say anything to Witsit, who's on here often debating this subject? Did you want to carry on?
Well, Witsit actually makes it a point to interrupt every other sentence that somebody says with some sort of fallacy that he doesn't understand. But also, I just object to being lied to. And if somebody starts with a premise that I know to be false, they cannot have a valid argument. So if they say something that I know for a fact is false, I want to stop them there because the rest of what they're going to say is invalid because they've started with a falsehood. And in particular, the central falsehood here is that Toby and Alan assert, with no evidence whatsoever, that they have the credentials to properly understand the scientific literature.
Okay, so they never said.
I forgot about that. That's crazy,
exactly,
dude.
Bro. What the
Dang.
fuck? I think that was the end of it.
This is what exams are all about. And, they can talk about it as though it's gatekeeping. They can talk about it as though it's some sort of oppressive measure. What it is some attempt to keep science grounded in observational reality. And this is the thing that they've missed. They keep on talking about stuff for which there is absolutely no observational validation, such as the ether. They mention it over and over again. Absolutely no evidence it exists.
All right, thank you so much, Tony.
Right. So that was just a bunch of nonsense. So he just claimed you guys claimed to have the credentials to discuss things. Did you guys do that? Did you guys claim to have credentials?
Once, bro.
Yeah, that's
Never
crazy.
once.
We're on modern day debates, dude. Like,
Yeah.
what do you think we're gonna do? Like, not debate?
Such a weird, like, it's all like, bro, it shows the cards.
These guys showed up to a debate with an opposing opinion, so my tactic was to stop him from talking.
Yeah, he literally
It's like,
his argument was you can't have an opinion if you're not an expert. They're not experts. So when literally this was his argument. He brought up seismology. He said, "You aren't an expert in seismology. You're not allowed to have an opinion." So he came to the debate thinking, I have a PhD in seismology. Here's my interpretation of seismology. They can't even rebut it. It can be dismissed because they're not seismologists. That's literally what he thinks makes sense.
Yep.
Bro, that's the stupidest. Yeah, I wanted to point out how insane that is. Surely we don't have to actually explain it. That's why I then super chatted the fact that it's a credentials fallacy. It's an absolute joke, bro. Like, I know very smart people that would dunk all over this dude, right? Like, nothing to do. It doesn't matter what degree you have, but. Yeah, just simple point there. Like you can see how gross his tactics are, and you can see that he's just mad at life here. If you take a close look, you'll see a man in his natural habitat of being miserable, and that's what that is. That's what that is. So, all right, let's check out.
We're just chilling, dude, spiraling.
Yeah, exactly. And you're being tortured, and you guys are still smiling. It's so funny.
A little bit of what they're doing and what they're working on, and the ingenuity and the effort and the higher level of
Is it just me, or are they really struggling with the like get their point out? Like,
he's just
when I was
trying to like
college,
piggyback off
a
of
learning
dude.
experience with NASA, and to be able to see a little bit of what they're doing and what they're working on, and the ingenuity and the effort and the higher level that goes into what they're doing is amazing. That people just say don't believe NASA, but the fact is anybody can do their own science and math and understand what's going on. So.
All right, let us carry on, and thank you so much for
My
your
man went on a
suggestion. Thank
NASA
you,
tour, dog, and he's
wrapping
like
up.
fully
First, Darryl,
connected to them now.
All I can think about was like the meme of the guy like looking backwards and pointing with like the wide open wow mouth, like pointing back at NASA and space.
Oh yeah, the bug man.
Yes, the bug man, but I probably could have done without the theatrics.
Yeah.
It's also
always nice to see a good bug man, though, every now and then.
Let me read this donation. That flat fellow, in an ever darkening world, continue to be the light that inspires others. Thank you so much for the $5 tip and the kind words. I will do my best. I will continue to do it as long as I can because I feel led to do so. But thank you for support, brother. It's Ken. Thank you for the $5 tip. Directing your super chats at the Globers allows them to lie and gaslight while getting the final word on MDD. That's a very valid point. Actually, I realized that towards the end, and I started to try to say for both. And then Ryan took it upon himself to say, oh, it's just for you because it's from Witsit. But I literally said for both at the end of the super chats, but he just ignored it. So,
wow.
Yeah, you're right. I should ask the questions for both people or directed towards Toby and Alan, because if not, then just the Globers get to say stuff like, no, nuh-uh, he doesn't know what he's talking about. What's he uses word salad and is retarded, and then just move on from the question. So I actually agree with
none of
this.
the other moderators do that format, right?
Well, I think it is
Like
standard. It's standard that if a question is for you, you get to answer it. They can respond, but you get the final word.
Yeah, so we didn't get to do any of the responding tonight. We just skipped over that responding bit.
Yeah, because I think he was trying to rush through it, to be fair, right? Because
Yeah.
people were like, let's go. So, but it is still a valid point. Like asking the question to the flat earthers gives it an opportunity to make sure that truth is stated, right? Instead of just like nonsense.
Yeah, and with regards to that point, like just adding like a simple Toby/Alan or whoever the flat earthers are in the debate at the beginning of your question just ensures that it's to them. And just to kind of like an example of that would be like that entire section that like was just covered about GPS, like that went on for like 10-15 minutes. That was only $5 to ask that question right there, and I just phrased it can Toby or Alan explain how GPS falsifies relativity and therefore heliocentrism in general? Doesn't the current globe model require relativity? And phrasing it like that, like, yeah, there was like, Tony and them, they did end up like coming back or whatever, but it opened up the floor. And if like, that you can tee off the flat earthers in the debate with like something that they've got a dagger for, like I know Alan's like got that locked and loaded, so like teeing him up for that just opened up the floor. And then like Witsit was saying, this has epic replay value. So anybody who's actually interested in this topic is going to be able to replay this debate. Maybe they didn't catch the visuals because, thanks Ryan for, taking off the screen share. But then if they look into it, maybe they get driven enough to go check out Space Audit's channel, and then they see all of his work he's done on GPS. Boom, GG. So
yeah, I agree. I agree with Super Chat's critique for sure. Last one, Kimbo Beats. I almost said Z, but Kimbo Beat. Witsits, thanks for all the great things you had done for the community. It says Witsits, but yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for the $10 tip. Greatly appreciated. And yeah, I do what I can. This is really more about my boy Toby and Alan because they showed out. I want everyone to support them as well so they feel confident to keep going. But thank you so much for the tip. And we'll continue to read them. That's Ko-fi.com/Witsit. All right. Did we just address what was said here?
Says Darryl actually said that MMX had.
Oh yeah. Okay. Here we go. I mean, I think we may have kind of covered this, but let's just check it out.
Let's see. WitsitGetsIt says Darryl actually said that MMX had nothing to do with motion. Ha ha. Okay then. What did they use specifically to get their predicted fringe shift?
Oh yeah.
Tried to do you justice there, brother.
MMX?
Yeah, that's what
Michelson Morley
Doesn't even know what it is. Oh my god.
Oh no, I didn't say that. So it sounds like there was a misunderstanding. So I didn't say it had nothing to do with motion. What I said was, which is with the paper.
You literally said it's not about detecting the motion of the Earth at all.
Said, and which is what the understanding is that they were measuring relative motion between the motion of the Earth and the ether. I didn't say it didn't have anything to do with motion. What I'm understanding from various flat earthers, they try to say is measuring the motion of the Earth. Period. When the paper itself, as we show, looking at it, that's not what it's saying. So it definitely has to do with motion.
It's exactly what it says to a T.
Not just the motion of the planet.
Dude,
what's up?
Coming off the street.
Yeah, let's finish. But yeah,
exactly what. Yeah, it's exactly what the paper says to a T.
Yeah, he literally doesn't understand it at all. It's so stupid. They're literally like they're never gonna get it. But
which was already understood to be going on. They were measuring it, and they also mentioned ways to measure it relative to the solar system using the orbit of Jupiter's moon. So all throughout the paper, it's clear that they recognize that the Earth is a globe orbiting the sun, and so on and so forth. The contention was whether there was ether.
Thank you so
much. Oh wow, they recognized it. They assumed it, and then the data didn't work. That's how you know it's true. But yeah, what do you guys think? I wanted to point out that like clearly this guy had no idea what he was talking about. But I mean, if you could just throw the ether out and explain it, they would have just done that, right? They would have just thrown the ether out. But Einstein specifically points out, okay, well, if we throw the ether out, we still have to explain it, right? Because it was supposed to detect the motion.
Sorry to interrupt. I just would say it's funny. Like he said he watched a bunch of our stuff, and it kind of sounded like he really did watch some of our stuff. And it's funny that if after putting in effort and like going through and watching our stuff, he came with that, like that random one little math gotcha. Like I don't know if he asked like someone else. I don't know. He had that one random gotcha about the fourth order thing, and then he thought he had a gotcha with Wang too at that one point, which was just like I don't know what he thought he was getting at there.
Oh, the first order?
I was so happy that he brought it up and like tried to get into it. I was like, dude, you want to talk about 2006 Wang? Like, I'll gladly talk about the phase conjugate mirrors. Like, I actually had to take it out of my presentation from the opening.
Yeah, but you realize that once you wanted to really get into the specifics of any of these topics, they just started ducking. Like, they just had like, pre-scripted responses, right? I mean,
yep.
Yeah, it's crazy, bro. But like, unless you watch this so thirsty that you're like SpongeBob in the episode where he has no water, right? Then you realize that they didn't know anything, right?
And
What do you
Toby,
guys-
since you actually did want to get it out, what you wanted to say with regards to Miller's work, because that question, like I think I'd said earlier, like it was directed at you, the one that Darryl completely dodged. I asked straight up, hey, if laser interferometry were to show a correlation between the motions of the celestial bodies and the fringe shifts, would that falsify relativity? He came back and said, oh, I think that's a misconception that flat earthers have, that that would say anything
That
about relativity. Relativity just says relative motion. That doesn't even that he was basically implying that it was a nonsensical question. Well, the second part of that question, well, I was waiting for him to say something like that, and the second part of the question specifically said, Alan/Toby, please address Darryl's response, because I wanted it to set it up that way for you guys to call him
You
out.
were ready for it.
Oh yeah, no, I knew
That's
for
so
sure.
hilarious.
I 100% knew. But yeah, Toby, if you wouldn't mind just kind of getting since this is kind of like the debate after show or whatever, where you get to say the things that maybe you were cut off saying. What was it that you were itching to say about Dayton Miller and his experiments?
Well, yeah, because he said they tried to call it a null result of Michelson-Morley, is what they said.
Mhm.
And they brought up the whole instrumental error argument, and so, so in Dayton Miller in the 1900 or the early 1900s, he started taking a ton of measurements in Ohio in his lab, and he built tons of different models of interferometers, and people started criticizing his work, saying, "Oh, you're not accounting for heat or temperature fluctuation." He started to measure periodicity with the interferometer. He started measuring the crap out of it. He basically took the Michelson-Morley experiment was a one-time thing. Dayton Miller came along and he started doing it over and over and over and over again. He did it at a consistent rate for a long period of time. And what they chalk up to be instrumental error, well, there's a few facts about that you have to understand. And that's that quote unquote instrumental error always goes in the same direction. It changes. And the fringe that they measure there, that they call instrumental error, it fluctuates, gets greater and lower with the. I think I kind of explained this earlier, but with the time of the day and the time of the year, and Dayton Miller had found all of that. It's literally like the same, like he had the same setup as the Michelson-Morley interferometer, and then that was like earlier in his career, but then he later on in his later times he went out to Mount Wilson in California, and he took a bunch of readings at altitude in an observatory, and he found there that the readings were greater at altitude. And then Yuri Galev 2001 came along and just like really corroborated it. He not only did he look at or reanalyze all Miller's work and basically corroborate the analysis, but he also did his own measurements. He did a really clever setup with a radio transmitter and radio transceivers, and he basically just had the radio transmitters bouncing at different altitudes. They were deflected down at different altitudes, and so he was able to do the math to derive the difference of the ether wind at different altitudes using that process. And then he was able to deduce periodicity in that as well within the transceiver readings. And the periodicity, again, going back to the thing of the idea that the preferred directionality of the speed of light, it changes throughout the day, and that seems to match the motion of the sky. So this is huge, because all those things, like I said earlier, this is all in the center of the Venn diagram, right? Between curvature, motion, and pressure. All these things are just utterly debunked by a gradient of ether wind that gets greater at greater altitudes and changes with direct correlation of the sky. And they try to do a bunch of crazy math to make it make sense in a heliocentric model. Even Miller did it. DeMayo did it. They all, I have a feeling that these guys might not be as heliocentric as I think they are, or we think they are. I think they maybe just want to be published, so they say what they have to say in public to be published. I'm not totally sure, but yeah.
Well, you saw what happened with people that even side with them on what their work explicitly states. Like, for example, Maurice Elias, who was not only a Nobel Prize winning economist, but also, you know, a decorated physics in his own, a physicist in his own day, you know, highly regarded. And then, you know, he takes Miller's side and says, hey guys, you know, we've got his fringe shifts show a direct correlation with the equinoxes, right? They're reaching their maximum minimum dimensions in exact correlation with the equinoxes, which boom, that falsifies relativity. Elias straight up came out and said that, and you won't find any of that. Like, wasn't that you, Toby, that was saying that you were looking for some of Elias's papers on the Elias effect, you know, and any of his papers with regards
on
to his
that,
critiques on
I
relativity
could throw a
are
real quick. Go ahead, sorry.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead. Sorry.
So, real quick note on that: if you go to Maurice Elias's Wikipedia page and go down to his list of books, you'll see a glaring missing entry for his 1997 book, the one that I referenced tonight, the Lanastropy de Space, which means the Anastropy of Space, the necessary revisions for the current theory. So it's literally like it has every single one of his books on Wikipedia, and that one's not there.
Exactly, and this is one of their star players. He has a Nobel Prize, for Christ's sakes. You know what I mean? So, and like he gets censored to all oblivion now, to the point where, you know, we're looking for his work and we can't even find it. You won't find anything on his Wikipedia page of his critiques of relativity or anything. You have like a tiny little half a paragraph referencing the Elias effect. Both of those things, though, show that he was on to the fact that the celestial motions are directly correlated to the speed of light, which is what the fringe shifts show. So, I mean, yeah, like I think you're absolutely right. A lot of these guys that were on the, you know, ground level of, you know, on the front lines of doing these experiments, they probably had opinions that they knew would be censored if they came full out and stated them. Or maybe they even did come up full out and stated them and they were censored afterwards. But anyways, yeah, I'm unfortunately that didn't get to be said in the debate, but yeah, all very fascinating stuff.
Yeah, that's good points, man. Well said.
Dun dun dun. All right, let me see what else I got here. And again, if anyone else has, there's only a couple more screenshots I have. If anyone else has a moment in the debate they want to talk about, feel free.
Real quick, since you guys are all here, what do you guys think about like the relative effectiveness of 2v2 versus 1v1 on modern day debate?
Dude, it made it bearable.
Did it?
Right? Yeah, because if I had to deal with that by myself, I would have just went off on whoever that, like, if it was just me and PhD Tony, I wouldn't have had that composure. I'd have been like, you know what, you need to, like, I would have went, like, it would have devolved real quick.
You did that a couple times anyway, but yeah, I get you.
Yeah, it would have been worse, dog.
We screamed at the same time. I was here in real time. It was like, shut the hell up, Tony.
Yeah. The shared suffer, like, knowing that Toby was suffering through it with me, I was like, I can make it through.
Yeah, like I have a different experience. I'm like, bro, I want it to be 1v1, but I get what you're saying. Because like my experience is they try to isolate my teammate and you got two people interrupting you, but I also see the other side of it.
Dude, well, the thing with Toby as your partner, dog, it's like you're not trapped in here with you or whatever. You're trapped in here with Toby, dog.
Yeah, I feel it. Exactly.
Yeah, I was about to say, because you guys are on the same, like, you guys are on the same wavelength with Toby and Alan on that's like a really good team. Like, if you guys were gonna pick teams, you know what I mean, you'd actually pick each other. And
that was like the first thing I said to Alan is like, we have an inherent advantage going into this. We can just knowing exactly when to just defer to the other and let the other take it.
Yeah, but a lot of times with Witsit, it's unfortunate because he's like so overpowered compared to his partner a lot of times, and then the other side picks up on that, and like you were saying, they immediately try to gauge the questions or tailor them to where it kind of edges Witsit out because they know he's just gonna come in and stomp him, you know. So I
should probably start setting them up with like teammates I pick, right? Because like randomly he hits me up like, are you down for a 2v2 with Mercedes? And I'm like, whatever. Yeah, whatever.
But like effectiveness from your perspective, right? If we're trying to do it for a point, is it easier with a buddy there or harder? What do you guys think?
What's that?
I'm trying to compare directly because
I think 1v1's probably better.
You think?
I also think
I think
it's more enjoyable to listen to and watch as well, which is probably the most important part because that's going to get the most viewers. Actually, that's probably the best way to answer the question is let's just see what gets the most views.
The biggest thing that you need to do is narrow down the debates to specific topics. 100%. It's like geocentrism. That's still a big one. Like, is the Earth moving is a big one. Flat Earth, is the globe correct? Huge topic. It's too big. Is the ether true? Is the Earth rotating? Does the Earth spin? Like, is the Earth going around the sun? Like, these type of questions are way better, in my opinion, right? Because it doesn't get so lost in the weeds.
Dude, Alan and McToon's debate was really, I thought, really educational and would be great. I love sharing that one to people that are kind of new to it because, you got the typical McToon dishonesty, shucking, jiving, fallacies, or whatever, but it was so honed in on each point, where Alan and McToon had decided, hey, these are the topics we're covering, and then when we've decided we're done with that topic and moved on to the next, it was very structured to the point where I thought that was a really, that was set up really well, and of course I think that was Darren moderating, so of course that helped out quite a bit.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Cool. Let me play. I think I have like 2 more clips. If anyone's got something that they want to bring up from the debate and stuff like that, just think about it, and then we're gonna we'll do it like that. We'll round it out that way. But let's play this real quick.
Last time I was on, McToon called me out for waffling while I scrolled, and I messaged him after and asked him if he'd like to
What the
send
heck is
me
waffling?
with all my
Never mind.
waffling that I do.
Well, bro, you're not reading. You're fucking
He's-
talking.
Yeah, I know, right? I had to scroll. Hold on a second here. Computer asks. First question. All panelists, please explain the different level order measurements with experiments. All right, we'll start there, Isa. So 15 seconds, Toby.
So is it a direct measurement or is it not? Are you abstracting from it or are you not? It's essentially that's when you get into the fourth order.
That's a pretty good summary right there. I don't even know why I added this one. All right, 244.38 to
measure more. Answer the question. What is the proportional velocity being measured in mmx? Let's do 45. After claiming you WitsitGetsIt asks, Darryl, you just got exposed after claiming you understood it way more. Answer the question. What is the proportional velocity being measured in mmx? Let's do 45 seconds going forward.
Certainly, they were measuring the relative motion, or trying to measure the relative motion of Earth to the ether. My purpose of reading the paper was not to understand it completely because it's my first time reading it.
I missed that. I missed that completely the first time. Hold on.
Oh my God!
What did he just say, bro? Whoa, let's watch it again. My purpose of reading the paper was what?
They were measuring the relative motion, or trying to measure the relative motion of Earth to the ether. My purpose of reading the paper was not to understand it because it's my first time reading it. It was just to look at it and show that you don't understand it. And just like I've seen,
It was just to look at it to make them look stupid. He said exactly his goal.
That's crazy.
Yo, that's too.
boy,
somebody clip it. Chat, clip it. 244.45. Dude, he said, when I read the paper, my purpose wasn't to understand the paper. It was to show that they don't understand it.
You know when you say your evil plan by accident?
Yeah, it sounds a lot like when FTP was like, I don't understand relativity to know enough why you're wrong, but I know you're wrong. It's like exactly like that. It's like, I didn't read the paper to understand it. I just wanted to find a way to make it look like they didn't understand it.
And you know what's crazy, bro? He read it down to Lorenz's notes afterwards, dude. Took it down to that level, but didn't comprehend any of it. Just was like, oh, okay, here's a fourth order approximation. They have no idea what that is. And we'll just talk about Lorenz at the end. Hey, dude, what?
It's like he scoured through it to find some obscure place that you may not know to try to deceptively show people you didn't know it. Right? That's what he did.
Dude.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Sounds about right.
Crazy.
X. Let's do 45 seconds going forward.
Certainly, they were measuring the relative motion, or trying to measure the relative motion of Earth to the ether. My purpose of reading the paper was not to understand it completely because this is my first time reading it. It was just to look at it and show that you don't understand it. And just like I've seen you present papers that you don't understand as well, Witsit. So it's a common theme in Flat Earth. as me and Tony pointed out, and they demonstrated for us over and over again. So,
all right,
what a non-answer. What the crap? So anyway, there you go. They showed their cards there, obviously, right? So that was worth looking at. And then one more. Got 328 here. I should have done this during the stream. You have to keep up with how long the stream's been running and then subtract the time. And I was just busy sending super chats. Let's be real. Let's see.
Witsit gets it. Darryl keeps talking understanding math, and he does not even understand.
How does this dude say keeps talking ab and not know it's about? Keeps talking ab.
All reference frames are equal.
I moved it down to 10 seconds. We are in speed round mode, guys. Witsit gets it. Darryl keeps talking understanding math, and he does not even understand the basic equation of MMX. What's the equation of? He's asking the same question. You got 10 seconds.
I think you reread the same one, bro.
I think Witsit might be asking it again because he's.
It's okay. I yield his question, and he doesn't have to answer that. You're good, bro.
I'm going to exercise my authority.
Oh man. Okay, I don't even know why I put that one there, but that's funny. All right, cool. Does anyone else have any other points that they've thought of that popped out to them in the debate they'd like to talk about?
Yeah, so there was a point in there when they were talking about eclipse predictions and distance derivations.
Oh, dude, I wanted to shout out Shane so bad at that part.
I was wondering if Shane could chime in and give us and school us a little bit, because there was actually some parts in there that I was lacking on myself.
I was going nuts over here.
And share your screen. Share your screen if you want to.
We didn't have a chance. I wanted to so bad bring it up. Oh, it was like a home run.
I mean, I put most of it on the database, but he actually outlined it pretty well. He was like, well, the solar cycle doesn't work that way. And I'm like, exactly. It's because you guys made up the solar cycle to confuse people so they wouldn't know what the cycle is.
Well, we don't know what you mean unless you want to share the screen. You feel what I'm saying?
Yep.
Well, it's probably got to be fully detailed out. Like each series equals this. Each 70 series of eclipses.
Oh, so Joe, to the chat, dude. Shane's scared to share his screen. Okay, just explain it without sharing your screen since you're scared. It's okay. Because you don't actually understand it. I mean, I get it. Go ahead.
Wow, you're
prepping him.
Yeah, I'm not susceptible to that, guys. So I don't know.
You suck. You have no idea what we're talking about. If you share the screen, you show you didn't know anything about it. Go ahead.
Well, I was saying that I need to revise the database page to be specifically all the way through. Here's what it is in the cycle, because the numbers involved ends up being 45,000 eclipses individually in a whole cycle. So it's a whole lot.
Explain how you understand eclipses on a flat Earth, please, sir.
Right. Because people observe the sky and they notice periodicity and an overall pattern, and then actually, when the pattern completed, they noticed that it repeated in an infinite amount of times. So once they saw that the cycle of the sky was cyclical, in fact, right, then you can predict a portion of the cycle as well as the whole cycle itself, and that's really all there is to it.
All right. Cool. All right. Any other parts that people are thinking about they want to throw in?
No, that's it. I mean, it's literally just based on past observations to make future observations.
So is there any part that they weren't wrong about? Is there any part that stumped anyone? In the chat, if there's a part of the chat of the debate that you remember that you feel didn't get answered or need to be addressed, let us know right now. We'll try to cover it, but we can start to wrap it up. So if you have any questions or anything like that, or you want to send super chats, go ahead and send them right now, because we're going to end up running through the panel and then wrap up with the super chat. So that's ko-fi.com, kofi.com/Witsit. Link is pinned in the YouTube chat. First link in the description. I'm going to check out Rockfin as well. Shout out to those on Rockfin. They get it started till late, but rockfin.com/Witsit gets it. And then we also have rumble.com/Witsit gets it. I think we'll check you guys out. Shout out to you on the free speech platforms, and we'll read the donations. Also, I'm going to NASA, and I'm actually going to NASA. I've been saying it for a while, trying to figure it out, but I'm actually going to NASA this week. And if you are a miswit, before I go this week, I don't know exactly when. It could be as soon as Monday. It could be Wednesday. But if you want to see the exclusive behind the scenes live stream, so I don't know what's going to happen. I'm going to try to low key live stream me going in there and talking to them and stuff like that. Sign up for the Misfit so you can be a part of the exclusive live stream of my first trip to NASA as a NASA fan, where we get some inside content. If you want to be a part of Audit NASA, go to auditnasa.com. Check your emails and stuff like that if you've already signed up to get into the actual thing. I'm gonna have to pay a couple $100 to keep our private work portal going. So if anyone wants to help out with Audit NASA, that'd be greatly appreciated, as I've been paying for it for a long time, and now we have a new expense. But it's roughly like $150 a month to keep the work portal going. But as of now, I think it's worth it until we find an alternative. So if you send a donation that's for Audit NASA, make sure you specify that's what it's for, and I'll throw it right towards the payment for the work portal. It's due literally today, 3/3. Anyway, long story short, that'll be happening this week. So sign up for the Misfits if you want to get that exclusive stream. If you're on Ko-fi, I'm going to be sending you a message to give you access to come over so you can get there in time to watch the exclusive stream. It'll be on members.misfits.com. Okay, now that's out of the way. Any other points of the debate that you guys want to bring up? Any other closing remarks and stuff like that? We'll start going through there. And I see nothing in the chat right now specific. I think we covered it pretty well. I mean, yeah, I'll give my take on the debate was, I think you guys did very well for your first debate, being censored and with PhD Tony just screaming like a psychopath madman. He was very emotional. I think you guys kept your cool. You were like, yo, what's going on? I think you fed off each other very well. You were trying to be very informative and specific to the conversation or to the subject. I think you had good faith. And although your interlocutors didn't actually reciprocate that type of energy, I think you still did very good. And the replay value is very beneficial and fruitful. Maybe people will find their way over here where they can get more of the specific information. And then they can go to the different resources that we're providing them that will also be in the links in the description below the video once this is posted. So you can find Toby, you can find Alan, you can find Shane, you can find the actual compilations of information that they have, such as ethercosmology.com, for example. So, all right, whoever's everyone that's up here on the panel, I want to give you guys a chance to say something in closing, your comments about the debate, anything like that. If you do want to say something, feel free to do it. We'll just see how it happens freely. Just pop off of mute and kind of give your take on the debate or what little you saw about the review on here. And we'll go from there. Take it away.
Well, I think you guys did
Yeah,
great.
man. I'll say good night. Good night, yeah, everybody. Good job, Toby, Alan. And it is hard to debate dishonest people. I'll be the first to tell you, like McToon and Tony and them. But they did a good job, kept their composure. Good night.
Nice.
Yeah. B, thanks for the encouraging words, man. Much appreciated.
Yeah. Shout out to Brian. That's Flat Earth Tests on YouTube. All right. Who else got something to say?
Yo, Alan, did you say that somebody got thrown out a library window for publishing?
Oh, I said that during the debate.
I threw that in there randomly. Yeah, that's fun. Yeah, I was talking about Marinoff. Stefan Marinoff, he measured the one-way velocity of light using a washing machine motor and some clever he called it the absolute motion of the Earth is what he measured, using basically like a pulse rate through cog teeth wheels of gears. And like it was actually like 10 years later, I don't remember how many years later, he was also doing research into free energy stuff, and then it was within like a year of that he supposedly committed suicide by jumping out of the window of the university that he worked at.
There you go.
So make of that what you will.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, if you read this guy's papers, like, he was not like mentally weak. You wouldn't get the impression that he was like a sad lad.
He bucked the system very hard too, and called out the Nobel Committee for not, because you know how they always tell us like, oh, go get your Nobel Prize. Well, like he clearly had been through it before, right? Because in his paper where he talks about the one-way velocity of light, he goads the Nobel Committee. He says, I sent them the apparatus and an invitation, and told them I'm willing to accept my invitation to come receive my award. But no response was received.
Yeah, he was a legend. Peace be upon him, man.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll close out my thing here. I had a lot of fun tonight, as exhausting as it was, and it's a bit demoralizing, right? But I've been through this stuff enough at this point now where it's none of that was new to me. I mean, like, there was more people listening, but that is not a big deal. But I had fun, and I'm looking forward to doing more of it. If you want to support what I'm doing with regards to this, you can go to toby.city. You can find the support link there. You can go and support me on Ko-Fi or Ko-fi, whatever it's called.
Ko-fi. It's Ko-fi, yeah.
And also check out ethercosmology.com.
Do you want to
fight? I go to ethercosmology.com. That's a new website I just put together. It's like a forum board, but it's also kind of like a community. I'm hoping we can use that as a place for people to ask questions, and also a place where we can share documentation, honestly. Although if you have criticism of the platform, I'm possibly willing to change the platform, because I'm not sure if it's a perfect... no, I probably won't do that. Anyways, in any case, that's everything.
Nice. Real quick, Homework says that Darryl dude said he wants to debate against people saying NASA pics are fake. You should do that one and dunk all over him easy. That is a debate I'm going to ask James to set up as well. Is like, is NASA faking space, and just like make people just shuck and jive and do this apologist defense attorney nonsense for the fakery in space. But I think it's a good idea. I think, dude, I really encourage everyone to get behind Audit NASA. Like, we had lots of things going on, million different directions, but I'm really trying to put energy behind that and make a documentary and expose them and go to city council meetings and get it to go viral and build up our social medias. I think that's the glitch, bro, for sure. But good idea. I'll try and set that up. I don't know about with the Darryl guy, who's super condescending, but we'll see. Maybe he does need to be put in his place. All right, who else on the panel got something they want to throw in?
No, I do.
But go ahead.
Yeah, so boys did great tonight, man. What a showing that we had to put out. But again, the whole point with to go on Modern Day Debate, to even do this effort to put your friends through such awfulness, right? To have them be attacked and ridiculed and interrupted and not speak, is to get the message out so that people will actually start to look into it themselves, right? Like, we're not there to convince you specifically of anything. It's to open up your eyes to get you to look into it, and also to provide maybe ready-state avenues that would save you some time that we had to plow ourselves, right? But I think the 2v2, I think, kind of gets muddled because they just usually devolves into screaming. Nothing that you guys did, really, but it's just the natural way of the things. I think we'll have maybe better luck trying to push Ether stuff 1v1 if we want to keep doing that. I'm going to try and get on there, I think, whenever we can, and that'll be the next step. But excellent job, boys. Well done.
Yeah, man. Round of applause. I don't know where the sound effects are, but I'll get the soundboard going. Someone says, think you got a family. Yeah, well, if they take me out, it's all good, bro. It's all good. Yeah, someone said, should people on Patreon switch over to becoming a member? Yes, but check your Patreon messages. I'll send you over there, and I'll give you free trial memberships over to the actual portal, because that's where the live streams and everything will be hosted. Patreon, I don't trust them necessarily, but if you're on Patreon, I still support it. It still helps me out. But I can send you over with free trials over to the other place so we can time out where your current Patreon date is. So check your messages on Patreon. Check your messages on Ko-fi. Go to Ko-fi if you're a member on there, and check your messages, and we'll help bring you over to the Miswits. It's members.miswits.com. All right. And even level 1 will get access to the NASA live stream, and then the higher levels will get more exclusive live streams privately later. All right. Who else got something to say on the panel? Anyone got a comment on the debate or the after show or anything they want to throw in?
Nice job, Alan and Toby. Yeah, man, you guys did the Flat Earth community justice by showing up strong. And then, yeah, with regards to the debate review / after show, I for one really like these. I think that they're awesome. In my pace spin that I like pretty much share everywhere I can. I have sections for the debates, and then also the very next section is debate reviews that I like to pair up, because there's a lot of stuff that back early in my journey when I was first getting into debates and watching Witsit debates and stuff, there was a lot of stuff that it just kind of gets skipped over in the debates because they move so quickly. And sometimes, the questions that I'm like sitting there listening and I'm like, oh, that was that seemed like a point that I didn't think really got addressed. It's good to have a show like this where we kind of like all kind of collect and brainstorm afterwards and kind of get to the root of everything that was brought up, and then give people the opportunity to bring up any questions or comments or anything that they have to say about it. So yeah, no, I'm really a fan of this. And actually, the modern day debates, I didn't know for the longest time that they had like their own little after shows and stuff that like people that flat earthers would show up to and stuff. And sometimes those after shows were as good, if not better, than the actual debates themselves. So yeah, all the much better if we're hosting them on fair platforms such as, you know, Witsit, your channel, or where else they might be hosted. So yeah, bravo, Alan and Toby, and thank you for hosting the after show, Witsit.
Yeah, of course, man. Yeah, I agree with you. I think I want to start doing this for sure. So shout out to my boy Chris. Much love, brother. Anyone else on the panel got something they want to throw in?
Yeah, thanks for hosting the after party, man. I appreciate it. It actually made it worth, just you're like, okay, man, I got to check out of this gaslighting situation, but to come and just like properly address it and go over it was really nice to add context to the things that we couldn't get across due to various interruptions. So that's nice. I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, of course, man. Of course. And sorry about keeping you there so long with the super chats, but yeah, shout out to you guys, man. I'm proud of you guys, and I know it did end up making this a pretty long ordeal. So if you go from 8 to 3, I mean, whew, that's 7 hours, but we're out here. 7.5 hours, baby. We're out here. So shout out to you guys for coming to the after show. All right. Anyone else on the panel got anything they want to say about the after show, the debate? Any closing remarks? Okay. All right, cool, man. So we'll get out of here. I'm going to wrap up the show, but shout out to you guys, man. I'll say give my kind of closing remarks here. I think that you guys did great, and I'm glad you guys finally kind of talked together and were like, yo, link us up with Modern Debate, get us on there. I think you guys should keep doing it. You'll kind of learn more and more about the tactics, and dude, I'll admit, it sucks in many ways. It sucks that you can't, like, your good faith gets taken advantage of, that you get interrupted, that they try everything they can in the book to try to trigger you. Dude, if you master just staying cool, and you guys are like eons ahead of me when I first started with staying cool with all the tactics, then you're solid, right? Because, dude, you'd be amazed how many people are going to wake up from your debate, how many people have woken up from my debates. Even the ones that I get super censored, they email me and they say, dude, bro, like, why can they not respond to anything you're saying? Why is everything they're saying over your head? How come when I hear what you're saying, I'm not really sure what it means? I look it up, it makes perfect sense. They have no rebuttal. You have all your papers, your evidence, and bro, it just blew my mind that flat earth isn't some crazy, stupid conspiracy theory. Rather, it's very intelligent people that are extremely researched and knowledgeable, that have all the evidence to back up what they're saying. And this is blowing my mind. It's changing my life. Thank you guys so much for doing it. And you'll start getting tons of messages and support that says, dude, thank you for going in the ringer and taking the shots for us. So I want to tip my hat to you guys because I'm proud of you guys. I was like, I was like a proud bro, I was like a brother in there, like super excited that you guys were showing out. So I'm proud of you guys for doing that, man. Thank you guys for jumping on the after show as well. So I'm gonna pop over to the solo cam. If everyone will just kind of hold off on saying anything for just a second, then we can close it out so that it doesn't kind of mess up the closing. But let me just kind of talk to the fam over here. All right, thank you guys for joining the after show. It's the first time we've done this, but I think we'll keep doing it, certainly with like legends that are like real homies of mine that do the shows. We'll come on here and break them down, because the only way that you can debate for the globe earth against the people that really have their swords sharpened is to just censor them, to scream, to gaslight, appeal to credentials, appeal to majority, appeal to consensus, whichever you want to call it, a bandwagon fallacy, ad populum fallacy, right? Or like appeal to authority, stereotype fallacies, poisoning the well, red herring fallacies, and like I said, credential fallacies. Is really all that they have are tactics, diversions, red herrings, and just non sequiturs to keep you away from the point, to bury your point and get it lost in the mud. And they've mastered the ability to appeal to emotion. And these are all fallacies. And if your position's so solid and so legitimate, you wouldn't have to scream. You wouldn't be getting mad. You wouldn't have to censor them. You'd be like, bro, talk as long as you want to. You're embarrassing yourself. That's not what they do, though. They prevent them from speaking. And I think that this is super important not only is the debate important because we're in the kind of the infancy of the resurgence of true Earth, and it's helping us understand what exactly is going on and helping us to really piece it together and strengthen our arguments for future generations where it'll just be information that everyone knows, but it also wakes other people up that are suffering from cognitus or they're not sure about the subject. And I encourage everyone to kind of learn the fallacies and support the people that are going out there and taking it, because like they said, bro, you may not fully recognize until you're a part of it, bro. It's super exhausting. It like drains you. Certainly if you're in front of lights and a camera and you're like sitting there, people are asking bad faith questions, you're being interrupted. It can be really, really draining when it feels like the whole chat, the whole world, all the people are against you. But the tides are turning, and we're getting over 50% on a lot of these polls. We had close to 50% tonight, where it used to be like 5, 6, 7, 8%. Now we're in the 50%. We're popping up in 60% of the polls here on MDD that has almost 250,000 subs. This is a major improvement and step in the right direction. I think that, there has to be someone that's going to go on the front line and take the shot. So I'm very proud of them for doing that. Shout out to Shane for going to do it as well. I'm going to drop all the links to find them. Go to ethercosmology.com. You can find space audits on YouTube as well, Ether Cosmology. And you can also go to adl.place and you can find my boy Shane. I'm going to put all the links in the description so you can support the crew. Cool. And let me double check, make sure that there's not anything going on. So, okay, no tips on Rockfin. And I don't think there's anything on Rumble, but let me double check, and then let me double check Ko-fi, and then we'll get out of here. Okay, so we're good on Ko-fi, nothing's there. And let me go to Rumble. How dare you? All right, I think we're good on Rumble. And let me see if there's any new members. Shout out to Joel Cooper for signing up for the water. Welcome to the Misfits, brother, and you'll get to see the NASA exclusive live stream. Shout out to Mark Powley for signing up for the water tier. Welcome to the Misfits. Craig, welcome to Earth. Thank you for joining tier 3 Earth. Welcome to the Misfits, Craig Weatherald. May have mispronounced and butchered that, but welcome to the Misfits. Terry Rowe, welcome to water tier. Thank you for signing up for the Misfits. All right, cool. Thank you guys for signing up for the Misfits. If you want to, it's members.misfits.com. We're going to create a new Misfits website here soon, and then members.misfits.com takes you to the specific little place to get your package so that you can get exclusive access behind the scenes. Of course, auditnasa.com. Sign up for that. Email me about that so we can get you into the work portal. We're really going to have that popping off. I'm going to kind of try to hope to throw some life into that this week by personally going to NASA for the first time. We're going to start making a documentary, so check that out. There you go. So yeah, the Misfits platform is really going to start being refined, and all the stuff's going to be uploaded in the sections today. So we have the community section, the welcome section, the feed, discovery, events, members, merchandise, content, calendar, community polls, music, Misfits live streams, IRL streams, in real life streams. We're going to keep adding stuff to it. So definitely check that out. I think that is about it. Okay, cool. Thank you guys to everyone that supported. Seek and speak truth unequivocally. The weak find contentment in the consensus of ignorance. So who cares what other people think? They're always going to attack you, but just speak the truth regardless, bro. Who cares? Weak people attack you because they don't fully understand it. And, whenever they attack you and revile you, rejoice because they did all the prophets before you. That's how it always goes. And you're typically not even accepted in your own village. And these are many different ways of saying the same thing, which is like when you speak the truth, man, like people are going to attack you. And it's if you show them empathy and realize like, I'm not mad at you. You're not my enemy. Like you're kind of crying out for help. You're insecure. You see what I'm doing and it makes you uncomfortable that maybe that we're right. And just like look at it with empathy and you'll understand that there's nothing to be upset about, right? Like the truth is rarely popular. So what's true is rarely popular and what's popular is rarely true. All right, I'll catch up with you guys on the next stream and Globebusters tomorrow. Peace.
Days of days scholars with diplomas and a chip on the shoulder. Debate is over, mind is sober, solar system disclosure. Can't go back once you heard the facts. You make a pact, never take the backs. Schooling ballers and the followers that give them the dollars. They try to holler in the chat that you're a fraud, not a scholar. They hating y'all, that's why they attack. The earth is flat no matter how much they laugh. Days of days, pseudoscience just a big charade. Making theories they just can't explain. On philosophically biased claims. Days of days, we break away just like a renegade. So pay attention, gonna get a grade. We schooling globers till they all